we've known each other since 2001.
Yeah.
And we always kind of migrated to each other when we'd be in the same room BSing about, different bands. And so we've always kind of had the same connection musically. It wasn't until then that we actually had the opportunity to finally work with each other. And I've said it in the past. I mean, I'm almost glad I didn't when I was younger, because I appreciate things more now. And I feel like lyrically and just philosophically, spiritually, like I was at the right place at the right time to meet back up with him and actually start working on this project, because I don't think it would have lasted had I been younger. If it would have been 2004, I don't, not to anything to him, but just where I was, I don't think I could have appreciated it as much as I do now.
Greetings, Legion, and welcome to episode 298 of Into the Necrosphere. This week, making their third appearance on Into the Necrosphere are Chrisom and Mephisto Deleterio from Veilburner. Their new album is entitled Longing for Triumph, Reeking of Tragedy, and it is out now on Transcending Obscurity Records, a firm favorite amongst the Legion. Many of you have messaged me about it and said that you love the record, and so naturally I had to invite the boys back to the show to give us a track-by-track breakdown of the record. We also spoke at length about some of the themes and the concepts behind the album. We spoke about how Chrisom and Mephisto met up, how their relationship has evolved over the course of 8 albums, and much, much more. It was a pleasure having them back on the show, and I know you guys are going to like this conversation. It is coming your way in just a few moments, but before we get to that, we have us a premiere on the Sphere. Quell is a band you should all be familiar with. It's been about 2.5 years since the last Quell record, and so naturally it was time for Evan to dust off the old guitar and give us a brand new one. It is entitled Of Lungs and Ashes. It is due for release in January next year, and for the very first time anywhere on the face of the earth, you, the Legion, get to hear the brand new Quell single. This is Revenant. Revenant is the name of the song. The band is Quell, and that is taken from the forthcoming album of Lungs and Ashes, due for release in January of next year, available independently via Bandcamp. I'll post the Quell Bandcamp link in the description to the podcast. The pre-order link should be up by the time that you hear this, so if you enjoyed it, click that pre-order button and let Evan know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere who sent you. Friends, a quick reminder, if a reminder is needed, that I am a card-carrying member of the Cosa Nostra of podcasting, otherwise known as the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. We bring you high-quality entertainment from Monday to Sunday, and we start your week every Monday with a fresh installment of Horrorwolf 666, hosted by Brandon Legion. Yours truly casts hexes and slays poses right here on Into the Necrosphere every Tuesday. 2 more episodes left for the year. So I'm going to be doing, obviously this is episode 298. On Friday, I will release episode 299, and then next week, Tuesday, episode 300, going out with a bang in 2025. And then I'm going on vacation for about 6 weeks. So I think the date of my next episode, of my first episode of 2026, is going to be probably about January the 19th, if I'm not mistaken. And that will be the first in my 3-part top 30 of 2025 countdown extravaganza. So something to look forward to. I also want to say a massive thank you. Now, what I'm about to say doesn't really count for very much in the grand scheme of things. There are YouTube channels that do these numbers in the space of about 6 minutes, let alone 6 years. But over the weekend, I hit a milestone on Into the Necrosphere. Over 500,000 lifetime views. I think I'm on about 501,000 now. And as I said, it only took 6 years, 6 years and 2 months. But I really appreciate it. I want to say thank you very, very much to everyone who has supported the show. The interesting fact about that number is that almost half of it came from 2025. So it shows you the trajectory that Into the Necrosphere has been on over the last 12 months, and that is largely thanks to old and new Legion members. I really, really appreciate it, and we'll get all mushy next week on episode 300, but just thought I would throw out that little nugget there and show my appreciation, because of course it really does mean a lot to me. You never have to worry about the show selling out or me changing anything about this podcast. It is always going to be about extreme metal. It is always going to be about wimp smashing and poser slaying. All right, on a Wednesday, we've got Everything Went Black, and that's hosted by the great Mike Hill. We also have Iblis Manifestations, that is brought to you by Cheyenne from the band Trivax. So look out for Trivax coming to a town near you if you're in Europe this coming December. They're out on the road with Apsu. On a Thursday, we have your second double shot, Necromaniacs, featuring the returning Mike Hill, joined by his co-hosts Sheriff Mike Scondado and Professor Jeff Kashid. This past week, they reviewed Frankenstein, the new Netflix version of Frankenstein. Great episode. Those dudes are always high-quality entertainment, and it is a podcast I never miss. We also have on a Thursday and again on a Sunday, the Sinister Minister, Karl Hikara, the Reverend, taking you on a curated tour through the dark, the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric. He is my co-host on this week's News Rant, incidentally. I did say that I want to make sure that I get him on the show this side of Christmas. He was on for a good 90 minutes worth of bullshitting. We spoke about the new Forteresse single. A lot of hype around that, so we'll tell you whether or not the hype is justified. We also listened to the latest singles by Converge, Funeral Vomit, Lychgate, Ellende, and we spoke about some of our favorite black metal songs of all time. So that's coming on later on in the show. But first, sit back and enjoy as I welcome back to Into the Necrosphere for the third time, almost certainly not the last time, Chrisom Infernum and Mephisto Deleterio from Veilburner. That will always be the challenge for any band that isn't necessarily a touring band and isn't a band that's going to stay in people's, or that's kind of in people's faces all the time. Yeah. It's how long can you capture people's attention for, and how long can you hold it there? until they move on to the next thing, just because, and it's not through any fault of necessarily the band or the fans, but they're so inundated with new releases coming out all the time. We were talking earlier when I was recording the news rant for this week. The second half of this year for new releases has been fucking nuts.
Really?
Yo, yeah. No, I mean, like when I'm pulling together my best of lists of the year. So last year I had the shortlist was about, and it was always narrowed down to 30. The shortlist was about 52 albums. I'm on about 56 right now, and we're not at the end of the year yet. And there seems to be this year a lot more that's scheduled for release in December than there was in 2025, or sorry, 2024, I should say. So
I wonder what that's due to.
Probably flipping the bird to Decibel magazine. They say we're not going to play your game and be part of your fucking October 31st cutoff for album of the year.
Oh, really?
So,
is that what they don't even consider anything for November?
No, they do. They claim to have heard everything there is to hear by the time that they release their top 40, which they always do in the first or second week of November. But I did some. I used Grok and did some analysis the other day. They have, in the last 6 years, so over 240 albums, there has been 0 releases that were put out in December that they included in their list. So that precludes like Melano by Ecclese. It would preclude Funeral Mist. Inquisition they would never probably add on there, but personally I think if that last Inquisition album wasn't on your list, that's Sposer territory. So yeah, but a lot of good stuff came out in December. That's part of why I changed my list, and the way that I was doing my list. I started doing my best albums of the year in January, so that I actually have a chance to listen to everything, and I get up to everything that came out up to and including December 31st.
I'm wondering if print media and Decibels, they're one of the print media formats. They have that sort of delay between, like, everything's got to be compiled and go to print and everything. Their year-end list might not be out until if they stop it at the end of October, it might not, get out until later in December or January when everybody's talking about like the year-end stuff. So I'm wondering if they do that for logistical purposes, like because they need time to compile it, send it to print, get everything printed up, and then schedule it to hit the newsstands.
I think that it is just down to it's first mover advantage. It's the incentive of first mover advantage. You're going to get a lot of attention if you're the first to put out your best of list. And again, I kind of talk about it and poke fun at it quite a lot, but at the end of the day, I also understand where they're coming from. They have a business to run. If that's the way that they are going to successfully run their business, then more power to them.
Okay.
It's always a way for me to fill in the blanks and pick up a few things that I might have missed along the way. All I'm saying is the serious list that gets released in January in a 3-part marathon that gets dropped on this podcast.
Yeah, I was because I was always thinking of it as, and see, I like that Kunal schedules our releases for November, because November for me feels like the perfect time, because if you do put out something noteworthy, it's still fresh in people's heads in December when they're talking about and they're making their people that they want to mention at the end of the year for putting out good albums, as opposed to something in January or February, which a lot of times past, it might not be as fresh in their heads. But what I will always want to try to avoid though is I don't like. I think the first time we released an album with Kunal, the 4th album, he put it out. He released it December 28th, and I was like, well, that's kind of after all the hoo-ha's already over and everybody's kind of forgotten about it, and no one's really checking anything out at like last week of the year. Everybody's kind of doing their lists and everything. It's like showing up to like a party after the meal and everyone's sitting around digesting, and you brought a dish and no one cares because they're all full. So
yeah, I think that's the impression I'm getting from this year is that's starting to shift a little bit, because there's a lot of bands putting out stuff in December. But I know exactly what you mean. I always thought that you guys tend to put out stuff towards the end of the year because that just so happens to roll into the way that you write and that you you kind of pull together your albums. But I mean, you're always writing. What album are you up to? Like, what's on the hard drive or in the bank at the point that we're talking about album number 8 officially?
I am working on the last half of the last song for album 10 right now, musically. Chris, where are you in the as far as the lyric writing? As far as 9,
I just
you're
have
working on 9.
Midway through.
yeah,
album
I have
13.
9. 9's finished. We just have to track the vocals, and then that's a wrap. And we already did the photos, so the only other thing is I've been speaking with Luciana. She's going to take the lyrics, take some of the photos we did, and we're going to try to brainstorm something up for 9 for an original piece that she kind of goes off of our content rather than just kind of telling her, hey, we want this, we want that. I want to kind of see what kind of magic she can pull up with actually reading the lyrics, kind of seeing the concepts and seeing what she dazzles us with.
I always thought that was an interesting approach to take. With other bands that I've spoken to, actually having finding an artist, having them hear your music and read the lyrics, kind of get a feel for it, and then saying to them, okay, well, interpret that in your own style. And I know it's a bit of a risk because they can come back with something that looks like complete dog shit, but I as an artist, that would excite me. I would like to see how the visual imagery that my work invokes as they listen to it without any sort of reference or anything like that, and you just say you slap the cover on that as you see it.
Yeah, I always I usually did most of the art for any of the bands I was in, and I was always so picky and kind of offstandish with everyone else because I'm like, the lyrics, they're this, so we should be making sure that the imagery looks that way, and someone's always pitching something from their ideas, so it's kind of hard. I was always kind of a dick when it came to the art. But with her, I have full confidence in her abilities, but also on top of that, she definitely understands and studies everything. She knows well more than I do. So I think we're in good hands there with what she'll be able to come up with, it with a unique twist also to help accent our whole universe that we're creating too. So,
how many times have you worked together with her now?
The last 2 albums, so album 7 and album 8,
and this one. How did you come across her?
It was a while ago. Well, now it's been a couple of years, but I actually had commissioned with another person, Alchemical Dancer, I think her name is, and I had the artwork, and I really thought it was going to be that we were going to release for 7, but ultimately I came across Lord of the Muses, that imagery that Luciana had, and I was like, Dave, this is too perfect for what we want with the duality of decapitation and wisdom. And so we agreed, chose that, and then with this album, it's death spinning its wheel, and it just, the cyclical nature of it all and the whole concept, it just kind of, it spoke for itself. So it kind of, I found her artwork found me. I don't know how you want to say it, but it kind of matched up, lined up. So,
which feels like it feels like that would be a rare thing for you guys. Like your music is very complex and your concepts are very complex as well. It's not just, hey, so there's this serial killer that goes out murdering women or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like it's. I mean, even when I've spoken to you about the previous records, like I have to keep my head about me as you're explaining it to me, because it's like, holy shit, there is so much detail and so much nuance to what you do. Actually finding an artist that can get that to a point where you're satisfied with what their output is. I mean, that's I don't know if I'm overselling it, but it definitely feels to me like that would be a rare thing. So she's a rare find.
Yeah, and it's cool because I feel like she is starting to she's getting a lot more attention, and she had attention well before us. But I still like that people kind of choose more of the black and white, your traditional black metal or more underground album covers, and we've kind of gotten to be lucky with her Van Gogh color work and everything, because I feel like it's just really good. The way that her colors, they're vibrant. I always wanted to kind of have more of an art approach versus album cover approach. I feel like it hangs with you more. If it's something you want to hang on your wall, you're more than willing to dig deeper into it and maybe listen to it also if it is music along with it and associated with it. So
Dave, how much input do you have into the visual aspect of the band? Are you kind of comfortable with Chris coming to you and asking for your sign off, or do you give him direction?
It's a back and forth. And that's a little different from like music. Chris leaves me alone with the lyrics. I leave him alone, and we all just. But when it comes to visuals, that's where, you know, we have to kind of be diplomatic and really feel each other out. His tastes are there's a little bit more of a difference in his taste and my taste when it comes to the visual art and stuff than there is in the music. So it's been a lot of like finding common ground. And the way I put it is, well, since Chris is in charge of it, I want to always try to act like a guest in his house. I don't want to be too directive, and it's hard sometimes because when I really like something, I can't really explain to him why I like it. I just like it, and when it misses, I can't really explain why it misses. So it puts a little bit of an extra burden on him. I try and be understanding of it, and I don't try to interfere too much. And sometimes he'll draft up something that I really like, and then I'll be like, okay, great, that'll work awesome. And then like, you know how it is when you make something and then you look at it again later and then you don't like it as much as you did the first time. Chris will come back to me sometimes and be like, I don't like that so much, and I'll still love it, and I'll be like, damn, I love it. Come on, let's use this. And he'll be like, nah, I'm not feeling it the way I was at first. I'm like, you should have showed it to me then, because now it's like stuck in my mind. So it's like there's a lot. It's a little more complicated with the visuals than it is with the music. But I like that. I love that we found Luciana, because it's something that me and him can both agree. She's somebody me and him can both agree on. It's like the overlap in the taste is definitely there. So I love that we found her and that we've utilized her. It's made things a lot more easy to deal with when we have somebody we both like. That's sort of like being the mastermind of the art and taking it off our plates.
And you guys are, I mean, you're for all intents and purposes, you get support from Transcending Obscurity, but you're independent artists in the main. So I imagine if you have people that you're working with who are like that, it takes some of the burden off of you, and you can focus purely on creative things rather than having to worry about, what the album cover looks like. But like the business, the administrative part of the band kind of just becomes a little bit easier to deal with rather than being as time consuming as I think it could otherwise be.
Exactly, and that's also why all these years we've just kind of tried as best as we could to keep it just between the two, like everything just me and Chris. Because every time you add a person to the mix, either a band member or a talking head or a behind the scenes person, you're complicating things by an order of magnitude. It's one more person whose schedule you have to work around. It's one more person whose input you have to consider. So we try to be really careful. A lot of people have asked us, well, not asked us, but I read comments online when we put something out, and people are like, they really should get a live drummer because it would help so much better than having that mechanical sounding drum software. And I agree to them to a point. And we actually did look into getting. I think a couple times we tried to work with a drummer who would take our stuff, go into a studio, send it back, and for one reason or another, it just didn't work out. But yeah, it would be great to have that off my plate. But at the same time, adding somebody complicates things. So it's a balancing act that we're always doing, and it's like we have to really think hard before we let somebody kind of into our space who's going to have a say. Because as much as it would take off of our plate, it would complicate things as well, because it's one more mind, one more schedule, one more person's world to kind of have to account for when we're compiling everything.
As I've gotten to know the two of you in the interviews that we've done, I mean, you guys are, the observation I have as an outsider, very tight. You're also two guys, I think, that have very you've got a very definitive picture of what your roles in the band, of what that needs to look like, what that needs to contribute to the overall the overall end product that is Veilburner. And I think it would be quite difficult to include someone in that, because it would, if like for you to find somebody, I think that the two of you could work with, perfectly, like in the synchronicity that you work together in. I think it would be 1 in a million. And I don't. That's an observation, but it's, in a way, it's also sort of complimentary of the bond that I see between the two of you. I think increasingly I can hear that connection coming out in your music as well, like how close you guys are, how aligned you are creatively, and how well that translates into the music that you produce.
Yeah, I definitely feel the exact same way. It's something, that's why I'm always really hesitant to add another person to the mix, because I feel it would change a dynamic that I feel is working perfectly, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as the saying goes.
Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
I really think, like, at the end of the day, our workflow is almost near perfect. I mean, we get together, we can bang out songs with recording the vocals and stuff, but we we have it down to the most minute details, and we're super comfortable. And that's the thing. Like, you can hear, I mean, I've always tried to do different vocals, but over the years, like, even doing other projects, I want Dave to record me. It's easier. We can get in, we bang it out. He already has presets for some of the stuff for my lows, and it works. You start adding other people, and I feel like you're selfish if you tell them you have to play this, because they're creative also. But at the same time, I like the way that he's programming the drums. I feel like the drums have become a part of our sound, and for the audio files, when it comes to the drum side, I understand it completely, but I don't want to sacrifice everything that we have up to this point to add another person. I feel like it's going to take away from the essence of what we are. And it might alter the sound to where people realize, after hearing a real drummer, they might actually go, I get it now. So maybe we do an experiment with a song with a drummer, and they can actually say, I honestly think some people will say this doesn't feel the same. Because it's kind of become the sound, and especially certain songs, like the way that the drums have been mixed, some of it's pulled to the forefront. Like, you're not getting that with a real drummer. So I love real drummers, but with this specifically, we have kind of created this perfect little sanctuary. I really don't want to interrupt that or tamper with it in any way, because it's been working too well for now. We've been doing it, what, 10 years? What is it now? Yeah, 10 years, 11 years.
Yeah, 11 years.
About to say, technically, it's officially 11 years since you started. It's 11 years since the 3 Lightbearers came out.
Yeah, so really, you really 12 when we started, working together, because you still needed the time to write all the lyrics for that album I had, the first album, 3 Lightbearers, I had sitting around. Yeah.
And on top of that, and even there, we've known each other since 2001. Yeah. And we always kind of migrated to each other when we'd be in the same room BSing about, different bands. And so we've always kind of had the same connection musically. It wasn't until then that we actually had the opportunity to finally work with each other. And I've said it in the past. I mean, I'm almost glad I didn't when I was younger, because I appreciate things more now. And I feel like lyrically and just philosophically, spiritually, like, I was at the right place at the right time to meet back up with him and actually start working on this project, because I don't think it would have lasted had I been younger, if it would have been 2004. I don't, not to anything to him, but just where I was, I don't think I could have appreciated it as much as I do now.
Were you a bit of a wild man when you were young, Chris?
No, I just like he said, I'm impulsive, so I have the art. I want to show him right away. Like, I try to temper myself, but back then he would have killed me. He would have started like ignoring my texts and everything.
I can't remember if I asked you this the last time we spoke, but how did the two of you meet?
Okay, I'll go. we used to practice, like we were in different bands back in 2000, 2001. In near like the area where Chris lives, there's a guy who owns he owns a farm because it's a rural area. But he did something interesting where he took one of his old chicken coops and he turned it into like he sort of turned it into like a space where some people use them for storage, other people, and a couple bands started using them for rehearsal spaces, and word got out about that. And so every local band would rent rehearsal space on his farm in his old chicken coop because he did a nice job of like converting everything, like all the like the wall, like it was kind of soundproofed as well, had full electricity and climate controlled and everything. So they made great places for rehearsals, so it became what's called a band hotel. It's just all these different there's a band in different room practicing their stuff, and Chris had a band in one room, I had a band in another, and just the bands mingle with each other. You try out for each other's bands, you swap members, and it becomes like sort of a hangout. So it was that was where we first kind of met, if I'm remembering right, Chris.
Yep. The old chicken coop.
Yep.
And
what was your first impression of Dave, Chris, when you met him?
He was a unique character. Just like listening through the music, because I actually tried out for one of his projects that it went through different iterations. So I didn't really get to talk to him per se, like in that first experience. But then as we started hanging out, you'd start seeing them kind of come down to their band practices and just handing out CDs. And I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh, they're songs. What are you talking about? Oh, yeah, they're finished songs. Drummer can take a listen to it, maybe modify it. But yeah, he comes down with finished songs. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's who you need in a band. Like, you lose all the time in the world. I mean, hell, it'd take us a month or two to write a song because either the guitarists didn't have good enough riffs or they didn't like the riffs or, everyone in the band wanted to have their own input to it. This guy's just coming down. He's got 3 songs on a disc. We're talking 2001. I mean, who's doing that? And they're already always ahead. His bands were always ahead because he was constantly writing. So yeah, the impression was it's a tall feat. I've only met one other person that could write like that, and I mean, that's 2 people in 25 years worth of doing this stuff. So yeah, it's wild.
What gave you the idea, Dave, to start? To basically shop around finished tracks.
It's efficient. it's a picture's worth 1,000 words. I could explain it, or I could play it for you, which is easier. So at the time I was just a single guy living in an efficiency apartment. I was interning at a studio in town, just trying to learn at that time how do you do this? How do you record music? What is a multi-track? Just trying to get my head around it. So I got my own I started earlier with my own 4-track tape recording machine that I would use to make really bad stuff that hopefully never sees the light of day again. But
Chris has got it. The day he gets pissed off with you, all those go on YouTube.
Probably. Actually, I don't even know if anybody still has any of that. I was putting things on.
He's calling it the real Veilburner.
Yeah. Yeah, I better be nice to Chris, or that stuff's going to come out. But yeah, once the computer revolution hit and home recording on hard disk and computers became a thing, I was ready to go. I was already like spending money I didn't have on a computer and the software to do it, because I was just in a I was just obsessed with doing this, and I was like, I was going to do it, come hell or high water. No time for dating, no time for any of that. I'm just going to do this. And so, yeah, I just, when I just sort of like, I had a little bit of instruction from the people at the studio, but then I just sort of took it. Okay, great. I got what I need. I'm going to go do this on my own. And I just started like fooling around with, digital audio workstations and once I figured that all out, I was like, okay, well, now what I can do is I can get a drum machine. It was an old one of those old Boss drum machines, probably the same kind that they like Mortician used back in the
Yeah,
day,
I was just about to say Mortician.
or Godflesh, or those guys. And I learned, I taught myself how to use that, and then fed that into the multi, and then recorded just guitar parts. So I would bring down not fully finished songs with bass and everything, but like terrible sounding guitars, but enough that you could hear hear what the guitars were doing, and enough that you could hear what the drums were doing. Okay, that's good enough to bring down and show. That way, we're not wasting time trying. I can keep up with my ideas and not like having to waste time explaining them in words, and then having to constantly stopping the drummer to correct him, or doing this, or stopping the bass player. Just do it. That way, I can show my ideas instead of describing them in words. And yeah, it was the most efficient way to do it. And then from doing that, of course, nobody had any objections to me being the songwriter in that band, because it's like, well, dude, he's bringing down all these finished songs. I can't even keep up. Nobody else could keep up. And it's just like, unless they had an objection, or unless they had a different idea to something that I did. And that happened too. Somebody would be like, hey, instead of doing the change there, why not let that riff drag on for him? I'm like, all right, that's a good idea. Let's do that. So it was still diplomatic, but because I had the tech and I had, the know-how, I became the default songwriter. So that's what I just kept. I wrote all the songs.
What was the catalyst in the end that got you two working together? So if you were sort of hanging, it sounds, as I'm picturing it in my mind, like it was a few years that you were in each other's orbits. So what was it that eventually made you decide to start doing something together?
Well, I wanted to do, the first time I met Chris is when he tried out for for the band I was doing down at the Chicken Coop. And I liked Chris. I liked his vibe. I liked his style and everything. The problem, if I remember correctly, Chris, was that at the time you were friends with another guy who was a bass player, and you really wanted to be in a band with him. Like it was a package deal. If you took one, you had to take the other. We already had a bass player. Like we had just recruited our bass player, who was a friend of our drummer, and so it was like, well, crap, it's not going to work out because we just got this bass player. We like him, but yeah, we like you. So
And yeah, I think then they went through a couple of vocalists, and there was thoughts of maybe having me go down, but it just didn't work out. I think it was Ross maybe wanted to try to really go for it and wanted to really try to have something less death metal vocal, if I understand that correctly, like something more.
The other guitar
more
player in our
clean.
band he was the money man, and he was going to be the one to finance the recordings. So he kind of had a say, and it came down to kind of he wanted to go with this other person who was also a great vocalist, and had ideas and everything. So yeah, that's how that worked out. But then it wasn't until several years. I moved away. I moved down to the Philly area. It wasn't until several years later that the guy who ended up being our bass player, he formed a band with Chris, and they wanted to record some demos, and they were like, oh, hey, Dave can come up and do it. So yeah, we ended up getting back together through a member of my old band, and that's when we started talking and formed Veilburner.
One thing that has been, I think, very evident over the course of your 8 albums, and Chris, I know you spoke about this last time, like the extent to which you push yourself vocally with every record. You do some really, really wild stuff on Longing for Triumph, Reeking Of Tragedy. Dave, when you've been recording Chris, has he ever gone down a tangent or down a particular line with his vocals where you're like looking at it going, where the fuck did that come from? Like, has he ever surprised you with anything that he does when he's busy recording?
Oh yeah, there've definitely been those moments. And there's definitely been those moments, and there's definitely been those takes where it's like, oh God, I hope my computer doesn't decide to like I hope my software doesn't decide to crash on me right now, or I hope I don't accidentally hit the wrong button and like delete the take by accident. It's because that's definitely happened, and it's just he would finish up recording. We both look at each other, and we'll know, be like, okay, that was the take. That was the take. Hold on a second before we do anything else. Let me, make sure it's stopped. Make sure that it's saved in case something happens, electricity goes out or whatever, and make sure that we have this. You can do another take if you want. I'll put you on another track, but I want to definitely keep this one, and not make sure we don't accidentally erase it or delete it. Guard it with our lives.
Yeah, there's definitely been other times though where we've gone through it and it's like, don't know if that hit the mark. That might be a little too left field, or why don't we try that one again? Because a lot of times it's ad libbing. Like I have an initial idea what I want to do, but then you just get in the moment because it's not like we're rehearsing. I rehearse on my own, reading over the lyrics, trying to get used to reading over them and knowing the cadence and know where I need to come in, to where a lot of it's spur of the moment. In the end, how some of the things play out. So
that you can hear that spontaneity, especially in your, I'd say, the last two albums in particular. That comes across without a doubt. And I think, I mean, again, there's a couple of other bands that you can use as examples where spontaneity or something that's sort of been just done impulsively in the moment in the studio leads to absolute magic. But the other thing, Chris, about your vocal style that has been striking to me over the last 2-3 records, the palette that you draw from seems to have broadened exponentially, and on this album more so than any others. Where do you get some of your ideas from, and where have some of the more recent ideas come from? Because again, it kind of feels like you're either you're sort of thinking more creatively, or it's just your frame of reference is increasing, so you're incorporating more of that into your thinking or in the way that you approach Veilburner's material. But where does that come from?
it's everything I've ever listened to. It's just being comfortable. We've been doing this now, we're again 11 years in, and there are certain things I would maybe try or have in my mind that I wanted to do on an album, and I just didn't do it because I wasn't comfortable trying it. There's like a King Diamond kind of shout in one or two songs now that, there's an effect on it to a degree, but like there's some of those power metal things that are introducing themselves in just because the music's asking for more also. I kind of allow the music to take me where it should go, but that's the problem with, I don't like trying to be defined by a genre, because I don't ever want to stick in one genre. I want to do what the music's saying. And a lot of times the music's asking for certain voices or tones, and that's kind of just where I kind of go. And now I'm super comfortable with it. So, I can throw it out there, and if it's awful, well, then we don't use it. If it turns out great, awesome. Are we ever going to be doing like straight clean singing? I highly doubt that. But I mean, if it would present itself in a unique way and it would make sense, like one or two of the songs that we've done so in the past, yeah, it's going to happen. But, I listen to things outside of metal. I love Florence and the Machine. Kill me, I know, but you could pick up different vocal phrasing and stuff like that in music outside of metal. And I don't listen to as much metal as I did when I was younger, because I always feel it's the law of diminishing return. Like, I've heard it all, so unless it's really unique or it really grabs my attention, from like a newer band, I just don't put forth the effort that probably I should to listen to it. But yeah, I just kind of pull from everywhere, and we have now a catalog that I'm allowed to kind of reference, and go back on certain vocal phrasings, or like even lines, like lyrics, or hey, we haven't done that kind of vocal since album 2, since Numenon. Why don't we reintroduce that to kind of bring it back around? So I have a lot to pull from now. So it's like a bag of goodies.
So as you mentioned, Florence and the Machine, what other singers, vocalists outside of metal do you find particularly interesting or inspire you?
Well, I love Florence. I listen to the Killers, that kind of stuff. a lot of the goth, The Cure, love The Cure, Sisters of Mercy, some of the newer bands that are doing some of that stuff. Trying to think of some of the names. I like Bon Iver,
Mm-hmm.
just different, vibes. Trying to think. I'm on the spot now. Joy Division, all the old '80s stuff. Yeah, I'm finding myself some country. I
Mm.
like the what's his name, Stephen Wilson Jr. I might have got that wrong. Like, he's pretty good. Hank 3. That doesn't really resonate in any of our stuff, but yeah, I'd say Florence is at the top. The Killers is another one. Lord Huron, I even dig on that. It's something that me and my wife can come to the table and agree upon. So
Yeah.
we can listen and enjoy stuff in the car, and she's not listening to Deathspell Omega, or she can only take that for a song or two, and she's done. She wants something else on. So it's
Yeah.
a good way
Yeah.
to meet in the middle. But yeah.
I have the same situation domestically, so I know that game. We have one rule that works though, and that is when I drive, we listen to what I want to listen to. When she drives, we listen to her music. So driver dictates the listening choice. And I've made it very clear, like, you can listen to whatever god awful bullshit you want to, but you can't be telling me to turn down Behexen or Horner or whatever else I'm in the mood to listen to. Now, I want to go through the songs on the new record, but the first thing I want to talk about is just the title. It's you kind of look at it, and the immediate impression I got was there feels to me like there's a slightly more, I don't know whether you would use the phrase modern twist or potentially modern interpretation. But I mean, Longing for Triumph, Reeking of Tragedy, it sounds like a quite apt description of the current state of the Western Hemisphere. But can you kind of give me what was your intent with that title?
Well, with the way that the album was written, that last song acts as a reprise, and it made me really think of, okay, well, the Ouroboros is constantly, especially the last several albums, has been sort of a center point, and it closes that circle. Longing for Triumph being the opening, the ending, Reeking of Tragedy. It closes the circle of the album. It kind of gives you like this completeness or this repeating. And essentially, it didn't really have anything going on with what's going on in the world. It's more that I really think, for me, when you're following stuff spiritually, or you're reading all these books, and you're trying to learn, you usually learn about all the triumphs. There's not a lot of people who have confessed their failures, and I kind of wanted to put that under a microscope, and kind of show that you can fail. There can be tragedy. What do you do with that? And that's kind of where this album is. It's you think you're going to succeed, and maybe that's where the story goes. But if there is a failure in that, what do you do with that failure? And where does that take the story? So it can play either way, but ultimately it's just that everyone always wants to hear the success story. Especially with, like, to me, my opinion with spirituality, like, everyone's always crossed the abyss, everyone's always become illuminated, and I'm like, I don't think that's the case. I think there's a lot of failure along the way. I think a lot of it can be tragic, and I mean, too, the tragedy of it is they don't understand, they're still devoured by their ego, and they don't know how to overcome that, and they think they've succeeded, and they haven't. They're still stuck in that same trap of repeating themselves. So that's basically the essence of it.
And I mean, there has to be failure, because what else are you going to learn from?
Right.
There's nearly nobody, and I know exactly what you mean about. I mean, especially with things like social media, the image that people portray is one of succeeding, overcoming, resilience. People are very quick to talk about their triumphs, but they don't really, they don't want to talk about the lessons learned along the way, because sometimes, I mean, those lessons aren't just born from tragedy as much as, if I think of my own situation, my own life. I'm 45 years old now. I've reflected on these things quite a lot, and some of it comes from just humiliation. Things that you did that you look back on now and you go, Jesus Christ, I was a fucking complete idiot. If I could grab my 21-year-old self and go, this is what you're supposed to do in this situation, I could have spared myself a lot of blushes. But as you say, people don't, and especially men, they're not really comfortable with talking about those things.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, when it comes to sports or everyday life, I feel like you can see it more. Hey, if you don't succeed, try again. But specifically from that occult, I definitely know of some people that they write down their daily entries, they post it to the world, and if it was a shitty day, it was a shitty day. But ultimately, the stuff that I've seen, it always seems that there's a glory in it. I'm always like, I feel like there's more ego there than, I mean, where are your shortfalls? There haven't been any pitfalls, so it's like you can't be that full of grandeur, and I feel like there's a lot of that. So yeah, I'm trying to throw that into this concept, that you're gonna fail. I mean, I'm continuously failing. I've been hanging out in the same spot for a couple of years because I just don't want to breach it. I'm not going to breach it right now. So, and it's making for me some good lyrics. So I'll just hang out a little longer, dwell here a little bit, see what comes of it, move on.
So Dave, talk to me about the first song in the context of your mindset in writing this record, because something that struck me about this album musically is that, again, kind of like Chris's vocals, it's drawing from a much, much broader palette, I think, than you guys have ever done. And I read a couple of reviews, and interestingly, I did it after I'd listened to the album a couple of times, but it seems to be, the other feedback seems to be consistent with what I'm saying, in that it's very much like one of your more accomplished, or potentially your most accomplished album musically. But it really does, like, the palette here is much more kind of extreme metal as a whole, rather than, kind of feeling like it belongs in one category, like it's black metal, black and death metal, what have you. There's, like, I can hear specific, throwbacks to stuff that we were talking about last time, like the old guard, old school thrash, old school death metal and stuff that you're into. I can hear some black metal, and then I can just hear all sorts of wild shit, psychedelic music, all sorts of things like that. But yeah, let's talk a bit about the first song, the opening track on the album, in that context.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a tall order because this album, the music I wrote for it, this was my quote unquote pandemic album. I wrote this from 2020 to into 2021. So I got to go back a little ways in my brain to kind of figure out exactly where my headspace was. I
thought you were going to say this is my Mushrooms album, and I was heavily medicated when I wrote this.
No, it wasn't that, but fortunately I have a pretty good memory, so let's see if I can pull it off. First song, where exactly was my head? I mean, I think more than anything, what I remember from this is really just wanting a strong opener that just that's typical of those old guard death metal, old school thrash bands where like you had to make the first song just hit, like right out of the gate. It had to like punch through a wall to let people know we're back. So it's got that Marshall drum intro, like you're building up to something, and then you get through the intro, and it just kind of explodes. So more than anything, I would say that's what I wanted to accomplish with that first song, is just boom goes the dynamite.
It's almost slightly, there's like with that opening piece with the drums, there's almost something that's slightly industrial about it. And I don't know whether that was intentional, whether it's just a byproduct of using the drum machine. But I mean, I've always said your drum machine is the way you use it is really good. Like I think, especially less so maybe on this record, but certainly on the older albums, you have to have a pretty tuned ear to hear that it's a drum machine, for the most part. But yes, on that particular song, there is something that sounds a little colder and a little harsher.
And I think it's because we're doing those those sort of Marshall drums in the beginning, the snare rolls. That's something that I'm actually been trying to work on since this album. Is I've kind of felt the only thing I really want to change about our drums is for the snare rolls to sound less machine-like. That involves just getting into the the MIDI programming in a little bit more detail. And the way I've been experimenting with it these last couple albums that I've written and that you'll hear eventually, I think you'll notice that as the snare rolls, I kind of rolled, quote unquote, rolled off the velocity on the snare rolls a little bit, because when you think about it logically, or when you watch drummers, when they do snare rolls, they're not hitting it with the same velocity that they hit their regular hits. They're lighter. Therefore, the hits aren't as hard. So I was thought, well, when I'm doing snare rolls, maybe I should just not, instead of making those full force hits, maybe I should just sort of roll off and just sort of make them like 3/4 velocity hits, and maybe that'll help make the snare rolls sound a little more natural. But I think that industrial sound that you kind of picked up on is simply a fact that they're all just full velocity hits on the snare rolls, and that they're sounding more machine like because that's a byproduct, I think, of having them roll at full force instead of at like 3/4 force. So I don't know if it was intentional, but I liked how it sounded, so that's how it ended up.
So Chris, talk to me about Pestilent Niche.
All right, yeah, that one was. This album came a little slower to me this time around, just because seven took a lot, so I wanted to be able to kind of write something a little more looser. And Pestilent Niche kind of follows into the abyss, like it's really going into it, and the confrontation, and the lead that's at the end of that song. It before the lead, there's a question: is this not the center of the threshold? And it opens up to that really clean, awesome sounding lead, almost kind of like beautiful lead. It sounds very happy and uplifting. So it's like, is that how you want to approach that? Are you at the center of this, or have you found the answer? Or are you here? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Because that music could be contradictory also. It could be a trick. So Pestilent Niche is basically wrapped around that whole concept coming out of song 1, which the main, and Longing for Triumph, the main line is, do you exist to suffer, or do you suffer to exist? And that theme carries through. So you get there into song 2 and a Pestilent Niche, and you're like, okay, is this not the center of the threshold? Have I made it? So it's, can I enter in here? So that's kind of what that one's based off of. It's just getting into the steps of where the album's going.
Okay, and then we move on to actually, by the way, just to comment on that lead at the end. That's another example for me of, like, I heard it and I was like, wow, that's something that feels a little different and a little fresh for the band. Like, again, you guys tend to be very experimental anyway. But there's definitely elements on this album that very pleasantly took me by surprise, which after 8 records is a good thing. And I mean, I've always had the theory that, you were talking earlier about the different kinds of music that you listen to, and Dave, I'm going to assume it's the same for you, but because I've always found that people or artists that are making great music when they're 6, 7, 8 albums into a career, part of the reason why they're able to do that is because they are just generally fans of music, and they like to consume as much music and as much different music as possible. And that's true of, I had Greg McIntosh from Paradise Lost on the podcast. He was talking about that, and Shane Embry has been on the podcast. He was talking about that. So all of the guys that are from the old guard that are still relevant today are guys that are first and foremost fans of music.
Yeah, you got to absorb it like a sponge, and that helps make the most interesting. To me, that's always what made the most interesting stuff to me, is the people who, people like Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth. Like, you can hear how influenced he is by the old 70s prog stuff, but then he also likes death metal. So merging those two sounds, I mean, it helps keep everything fresh. Finding new ways to put different influences together is what drives this whole thing forward. finding new ways to blend sounds together. And in the case of Pestilent Niche, that was, and in full disclosure, the first part of that song was me, but was basically was directly inspired by Meshuggah's song Combustion. That first track on, I think it was their Obzen or Obzine, I don't know how to pronounce it, album.
Obzen. Yeah.
Obzen. Yeah. I remember the first time I heard that album in 2008, it was like when I heard that first song, it was like when you're a neighbor seeing like, a new sports car in their in their neighbor's driveway and thinking, I want one of those for myself. So yeah, I always loved that song, and I always at some point in, like, when I was writing music, I was like, I always want to find a way to I love that the plucking of the 16th notes muted and then just kind of coming out with like a steady bop 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 type of beat into that, but I don't want to rip them off. So it's like I really took the time to figure, okay, I want to kind of do something directly inspired by that, but I want my own melody, maybe in my own tuning, or maybe a slightly slower tempo is what I'm hearing, and different time signature. So I worked on it a bit, and I was like, okay, I think I found like something that I could like take from this song that I've loved so much for so many years and sort of put my own spin on it, or sort of, differentiate it enough that I'm not like, I hate people who steal, but at the same time, we're all influenced. So it's like, I really worked hard to be like, how can I be influenced by Combustion and want to do something like that without ripping them off? And, I like how it turned out. And then after that second verse, I went off in my own direction with it. The song just kind of led off in a little bit of a direction in the way Meshuggah went. So, even though, I try to take inspiration, I don't ever want to rip people off. If I do borrow something, I want to make sure that I change it enough and, put enough of my own spin on it that I can somehow, make it mine while giving credit to the artist who I'm directly inspired by.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I could pick up Meshuggah in the music, but I was like, right, I can't quite put my finger on this, but I can hear something of that reminds me of Meshuggah in this in this music. Yeah. There is nothing wrong with a an influence, or especially when that influence is incorporated almost as a tribute in a way. I mean, clearly that song meant a lot to you. You've used that influence in something you've written for that reason. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think. I think when people are a little bit more overt with how they pull for ideas, that's a bit different. I don't know whether you guys know Forteresse, but people freak out about that band like there's no tomorrow. They've never really been on my radar much, and I what I've heard I don't mind, but this new single they've put out, actually I'm kind of recording this back to front because I've already recorded the news rant that'll be on this episode, but myself and Karl spoke about it, and the first verse of the song played, and I said, sing the first verse. If you play the song, the first riff to the Forteresse track back, sing the first verse of Danzig's Mother over that and tell me how well it fits. And it was like note perfect. You could do it. So, which is not to say it's a ripoff, but it's kind of like, I don't know whether you did that on purpose, but it's really, really close.
I mean, so many things have been done. It's just like you're saying, there's so many albums coming out every week, and so that's just more options that are off the table.
Yeah, so 100%.
The wellspring to draw from gets smaller and smaller.
So next up, we've got Rigor and Wraith. Chris, you gonna tell me more about that one?
This one was supposed to be basically an instrumental. We had talked, and he's like, "Hey, if you can come up with very minimal lines, if it seems like it works, great." So I came up with, I think it's Shatter the Shadows, Rigor and Wraith, Dispersing Dispersions, Rigor and Wraith. We put it in 2 spots. It felt better just to be in that one spot. So it's simple. I think it says a lot in those 4 lines. And that's about it. I think it fits the mood for it because it carries itself with it. It doesn't need the vocals. You could have done it without them also, and it would have been fine.
Dave, let me ask the question this way. To what degree would you go back and revise music based on the lyrics, or even some of the vocal performances that you're seeing from Chris? Or is it kind of like once the songs are written, they're written, and you fit everything that he's producing into that construct?
I wouldn't go back and change anything.
Yeah,
yeah, not
because it's
anything
interesting because there's a very sort of natural flow to this record. There's clearly, obviously, a natural flow to the concept as well. But like with something like Rigor and Wraith, just having those very sort of simple lines. It's interesting how well how sort of clear your vision is of the flow of the record as well before you've even heard the lyrics.
Yeah, that song in particular. Now, my reference point for a song like that, I'm going to throw out another metal artist and song and album, but for Wataine's Lawless Darkness, right in the middle of that album is where they put their title track, which is an instrumental. And I always liked, because that's one of my favorite albums. I've always liked the role that song served in the flow of that album, because you had all those perfectly written, perfectly structured songs up to that point, and then it's just almost like they take this this intermission where Eric Danielson decides to let the band take center stage and just tell the story musically at this point until the next point. And I always liked how, like, just the role that song served in that album. So at this point in the album, I was like, I want something where I want to let the music just kind of tell the story at this point, and sort of take, the verbals or the lyric out, almost out of the equation, and just like have this be at this point in the journey, this is what's going to lead you into the next part is this music with some minor, some small vocal parts thrown in, just as an accent. So that was draws from Wataine's moment on Lawless Darkness.
Yeah, and a little tidbit. I'm sorry. He gives me the music. We're not. It's what measures are there. What measures are there? The song that he sends me, that's how I write to it. We're not doing, hey, I need an extra 3 lines here, so can you do 2 more measures? It's the finished product comes to me. That's how I write to it, which I like, because it's also sometimes a challenge. But we don't start piecing things apart, and I go, yeah, I need 5 here. Like, it's done. Like, he hands it to me. I fit in what needs to go. So he somehow is really good at doing that, also knowing, yeah, he only needs that much space there, or it only makes sense to have that so many lines there. So,
but I think that comes back to that connection that you guys have as well. Like, you can probably, whether consciously or subconsciously, as Chris has sort of intimated, you can anticipate, roughly speaking, how much room he's going to need to be able to do something as you envision him capable of doing in a particular song.
Yeah, and some of the songs are written specifically thinking, well, I want to make sure that the next thing I write is going to give Chris a lot of runoff space. If like in the case of this album, I wanted to write stuff for the song after Rigor and Wraith to give Chris a lot of runoff space, because I know that coming out of Rigor and Wraith, people are going to be wanting to hear him again.
Which, by the way, you got a beautiful natural segue into the next song.
I know, isn't that awesome?
That which crypts howl grandeur. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so this one, so some people had asked about some of the titles, and that they're not grammatically correct and stuff, and that's actually on purpose. It's because you're dealing with Karanzan's Confuser, it's the Legion. So I wanted to play on that concept by having like strange titles, that which crypts house grandeur, crypts, that should not be there, but it sounded really cool, especially with the concept. So I had that one down pretty quick. This was one of the first songs that was written. It came very, very easy. The lyrics aren't per se the words Portal inspired, but the sequence of them and the way it's written are, because he likes to use a lot of made up words, and they kind of are not a rambling, but seem more like a codex than an actual saying or a line. It just seems to be words together, and I kind of tried to play on that in certain spots, just a kind of an ode to Portal in that sense. I do that in a couple songs. So this song, I went kind of Portal style on it and tried to fit that into the concept.
Just as a side note, as we're talking about different bands, you mentioned Corazon. I'm going to assume, if not, you guys need to very seriously get up to date. I'm going to assume you're fans of Akrokok's Corazon album.
Yeah.
I'm seeing them play that start to finish next year at Forteresse Festival.
Oh, really?
So I mean, I have seen them play probably every single song off the record, and I've watched them. It's probably the band I've seen live most, and I was there for the glory days of the suits and the suits and ties and all that sort of stuff. I certainly hope that we'll be getting that again next year at Forteresse. But
I saw that tour, that Corazon tour, when they came to they did a small U.S. tour for that album with the suits and everything.
Yeah.
Back in 2003 or 2004, and one of the stops was Philadelphia, and I made sure I was I was right there because I had no idea when they'd be able to get back across the side of the Atlantic again.
Those shows were fucking hellish. Like I just remember the feeling of seeing them live the first time when they played with Cradle of Filth, and I was there to see Cradle of Filth. I had never seen them played before. I knew of the band, but I didn't know what to expect. And they came on, and my jaw was just hanging open. I actually didn't quite know what to make of them at first. I knew it was like something I wanted to keep going back to, but I almost in a weird way didn't know why I wanted to keep going back to it. And over the years, and it's been like this for probably 2 decades plus, Corazon is probably my favorite album of all time. So being able to see it end to end is going to be fucking incredible.
Nice.
Because I also know what they're like when they perform. They will do an incredible job. But as soon as you mention, I can't hear the name and not immediately think of that album. First the album cover, and then thinking of that opening of the Hammer Horror. I think it was like the Hammer Horror TV show or something.
I remember years later when I was watching when streaming became a thing, and they uploaded, because I was a big Hammer fan, and then they uploaded that Hammer House of Horror. And I was systematically working my way through those episodes, and then I got to that episode that they took that the sample from that starts the album. I'm like that's where they got it. And I love having those moments when I hear the source material for some of the samples that I've been geeking on in growing up and in my past, and then being able to put it together or hearing it in its context.
Yeah. All right, we've got, and I'm going to possibly mispronounce this, but Darth Ye Shadow Portrait.
Yeah, I mean, some people say Dot, but I say Doth. Doth is the abyss, basically. It's the hidden sphere on the Tree of Life, Sephiroth. And so I wanted to do like this old English twist to it, like Doth Ye Shadow Portrait. Again, grammatically kind of off, but I wanted to play that actual word in there kind of as a double play for people with, they do follow this stuff, like maybe they'll pick up on that and go, I see what he did there. But again, it's just building on that concept. Love this song. This was the one before that, Witch Crypts, and this were I think the first 2 songs I wrote. They came right out, no problem. So yeah, fun one to write to. Yeah, and following that journey.
We've spoken before about like Easter eggs and stuff across the every Veilburner record, and obviously the one that instantly jumps out, or not necessarily an Easter egg, but just kind of a little touch that I wonder whether it was intentional or whether it was just happenstance. But I mean, the album clocks in at 51 minutes 51 seconds. I'm going to assume, knowing the two of you, that was on purpose.
No.
No.
Nope. Yeah, we didn't want to repeat that whole. I mean, we did that gimmick last time with the 7 songs, 7 minutes, exactly 49.
Songs, yeah.
Like, I don't want to repeat a gimmick. If it was a miracle we were able to make that work last time. I didn't want to push it, and I don't want to move on to the next thing. Don't repeat a gimmick. Let's always try to find something new to do.
Mm-hmm.
But also piggybacking on what Chris was saying about the weird grammar and punctuation and everything. It's like I noticed some people have noticed that on the album title there is no space after the comma. Longing for triumph, comma, reeking of tragedy, and grammatically correct would be having a space after the comma. And when I saw that, I knew that Chris was doing interesting things with, like, the punctuation and everything. So I was like, he's probably got an idea. He's probably got something. I'm not gonna, like, ask him to change it or whatever, because the grammar nerd in me, like, saw that and I was like, no, there really should be a space after this comma. But then I thought, nah, I know Chris has strange things that he's doing with the punctuation. And I'm sure it's intentional. So I'm gonna let Chris cook and not, like, mess around with that. But some people have actually picked up on that, and they're like in like cyberspace, and they're like, I've seen comments like that lack of space after the comma is bothering me, or it's like, why isn't there a comma? There needs to be a comma. I'm like, which I think is kind of funny, because I wanted to do the same thing when I saw the album title, but that's what I know that's what Chris was doing on this album, so I let him cook.
So that was intentional, the lack of space?
Yeah, and there's some other things that will start to show themselves as future albums come to be. I don't follow Crowley per se, but like I read his stuff, I respect him, but there are definitely some things, like he does some stuff phonetically that completely alters what he's saying. If you can read between the things, it's not really, there's different languages involved sometimes in the English, but even with like an exclamation and a question mark, like you can read something with an exclamation at the end of what he's saying, but if you understand what he means with the exclamation, that saying completely takes on another thing. So for people that are first reading it, they'll read it as such, but then as you get to read more and learn more of the Thelema and just some of his other writings, then you realize, oh, an exclamation point is this. Okay. Then you go back and read that. It's completely taken on a new form of what it actually means on top of that. So that's also some of the things that I'm doing with certain words, certain phrasings. Some things repeat themselves because it's purposeful. This is a story. So going back to some lyrics, it's not that I've run out of ideas. It's reinforcing an idea. It's trying to bring that story arc back to better describe what is happening, to give the person who's really looking for this in the story or wanting to investigate it further, like there's your point of reference. You can go back to that song and maybe, from the first album or second album and see like, oh, it might be, okay, I see where this is going. I'm reading these lines. This is where I can take this. So yeah, everything's basically, there's a method to the madness. Some people might get it. I'm just doing it for myself. Dave enjoys it. Anyone else picks up on it, awesome. I appreciate it. But it ultimately comes down to, this is my way of staying sane, and it's by overcomplicating some things.
And I also know that
and being able to read.
Yeah, and I also know that you're a stickler for symmetry, Chris. And when you look at the album title, how there's no space, like it does create that perfect symmetry before and after the comma. So that's another thing I thought you were doing is creating that sort of mirror image on one side.
It's kind of. I'm just looking. I'm looking at a blown up version of the album cover right now, and it sort of creates that duality. Yeah,
there's all kinds of stuff always.
It kind of means it's almost essential, I think, for the true Veilburner fan to be buying the Veilburner vinyls that you guys put out. You're doing a limited run of 200 for this record, correct?
I don't know how many Kunal did for this run. I know that they're almost gone. Last time I checked the Bandcamp page, he said that there was only like a handful remaining.
Yeah, so I'm on your Bandcamp. It says high quality LPs imported from the best plants in Europe and North America. 2 unique variants for this phenomenal release, which are strictly limited and hand numbered to 200 copies each. So 400 copies total, and apparently there's only 7 remaining.
Okay, yeah,
well done.
And I do a special mix for the vinyl as opposed to the digital or the CD versions. Like vinyl, people really like dynamic. People who are into vinyl, they get into vinyl for dynamics less than volume. Like, so for the CD and the digital release, like I go a little extra heavy on the final mix compression to increase like the loudness war. You're familiar with the loudness war and that whole thing, and it's kind of had its detrimental effects in that you lose some dynamics, in that final mastering, trying to like make everything as loud as possible without peaking. But for the vinyl version, I know people buy vinyl for a much different reason. They want the clarity, and they want to be able to hear everything, and they want those dynamics. I take a lot of the final mix, if not all of the final mix compression off of the mixes for the vinyl version. So I do that to really kind of encourage vinyl aficionados and even people who aren't vinyl aficionados to, it's worth investing in our vinyl versions because they're more than just what you hear on the MP3s. You're going to hear dynamics on the vinyls, and there's space for the different instruments to really kind of breathe better. And the different effects and like the weird background stuff we have going on. Like you'll be able to hear that a little better in the vinyls because I've intentionally sort of made the vinyl mix to sort of service that, those people's needs.
I love that you do that as well. I mean, that there's actually a, sort of a genuine imperative for people to go out and buy the vinyl, buy the actual product. You're getting something extra that you're not going to be able to get from just listening to this on Spotify or buying the MP3s off Bandcamp.
Exactly.
Yeah. So next song we've got is Ouroboreal Whirl, which track 6 and 7 I feel is like where some of the most skullduggery is taking place. The phonetic skullduggery is taking place.
Yeah, these songs were interesting. The matter was very easy to write. It was already basically written. I had used some of the lyrics for another project that fell apart, and they were some of my favorite lyrics. And I'm like, this fits this concept more, anyways. And with Ouroboreal Whirl, this was the hardest because it feels like a rock anthem. So it was hard not to like fall into that like Black Betty or Coming Down from the Mountain vibe, like, where you're stomping your feet or doing like Another One Bites the Dust. Like I was really trying not to get trapped in that kind of cadence. But yeah, it was a fun one. A lot of these, there's always a song or two on the albums that kind of stumped me for a little bit because you just want to go with the regular, what anyone would write to it. So I try to be a little more patient with it and try to see if you can do a new take on it. And this one took a while to develop, but once it did, I'm like, oh, this is going to be, I think this one's going to turn out really well. And I feel like it did. And the lyrics really match up with it. Like I have to look at the lyrics at this point because there's so many lyrics and we don't play it out. It's hard for me to remember all the lyrics right on point when you're referencing stuff. But yeah, the main part in this is time is our master and we are its slaves, shallow as the flesh, the deepest of the graves. So it's basically, it's going back into that cyclical nature of the Ouroboros. It's the abyss is this chaos and identity, a view of the liminal abyss, a poison of reality, cursed to become again and again, again and again. So it's reinforcing that unless you can figure out yourself, you're basically foobar when it comes to moving on to whatever you want to move on to, even if that's being an atheist and wanting complete blackness.
Yeah.
You're still going to not get that if you're going to screw up here in life. So
the phonetic change or phonetic twist in Matter, Oh the Most Awful of Martyrs, what were you is that just fucking around with the listener at that point, or is there something intentional behind it?
I just feel like it was a really cool song title. It stuck, and there wasn't too much into it other than the words came together. They flowed nicely. I like to play with matter, the word matter a lot, as in actual matter, and does it matter? That doesn't matter. So I like to play. I've been playing around with that the last couple of albums. It just kind of sticks. So that plays its way into this a little bit. That you can use that as a double speak. But yeah, it's just Matter of the. I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool title. I'm gonna have to keep that down, and it just worked out extremely well for Veilburner. So
And then finally, we close off with Reeking of Tragedy, which, as you say, it kind of completes the circle. Let's start,
again,
Dave. Oh, actually, so I was going to say let's have Dave start off with his views on that song. But Chris, you're on fire, so go.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say, it just repeats that: do you exist to suffer, or do you suffer to exist? Which, it opens it up with that. It closes with that. That, I mean, really is. It's an existential question. It's also an internal question. What are you doing here on Earth? Are you gonna suffer to exist, or are you gonna exist to suffer? So how are you gonna find the balance in between those two things? And unfortunately, a lot of us don't find that balance, and it's kind of tying into where does this take the character, or, so I like to say, characters. Where does it take these individuals or individual in the story? Like, are they going to embrace either one? Or are they going to try to ride the middle of it? Like, what is the finality of this, and where they end up going? So,
Dave?
Yeah, that song. So getting back to the previous album, the Duality, Decapitation, and Wisdom, I liked how we had that part 1 and part 2, song duel. And I wanted to do that again, but like I said, I don't want to do it exactly the same way. So this time I wanted to kind of do that idea of a track being a part 1, one track being a part 2, but to differentiate it this time, I was like, well, why don't we have the album, just have them bookending the album. We'll start with the first one, and then we'll go through the rest of the album, and then we'll finish with the part 2, which, and Chris's concept just happens to work out perfectly. Is that song ends right back where song 1 starts, with the with that chant and with those drums and everything. So it's like, yes, it's almost like it sets it up so that you could repeat it ad infinitum. Just as soon as like song 8 ends, it leads right back into song 1 again at the beginning. So it works with the concept, and the whole thing worked out. Just worked out perfectly.
Now, I've got one final question for Chris. Chris, you're an extremely talented lyricist with a lot of very intelligent concepts to share, and you have a knack for kind of crafting things that are that really make a person think. So here's my question to you: do you feel intimidated when faced with the work of a master lyricist like Dave Mustaine and lines like "I don't care if I'm out of line, I don't care because this life is mine"?
yeah, I mean, it does. It makes me want to just not. I just want to give up.
I'm about to say you just want to quit at that point.
Yeah.
Was that
is
his new song?
That's the new Megadeth track. And for some
I've
reason,
only heard it. I hadn't heard it yet.
Oh, dude, it's horrific. But as we're talking about this, I'm like, this is like super complex, highly intelligent, thought provoking, and then I go, but the big release coming out next year in January is this other dog shit. It's there's definitely different levels, different layers to this music and this scene, I think.
Yeah, I think also though, for us, I think we know how to have a sense of humor also. So I mean, yes, we are writing. I mean, the music is complex, but at the end of the day, like, it is a lot of fun. And I think it is also a remedy for the sanity that is the world. It keeps Dave happy. He's able to write. I like it. At the end of the day, it comes back to that initial question of, getting a drummer eventually, or like, we cook. We're doing good. We get along. Let's not screw that up. And lyrically, if people like it, if people don't like it, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, some people do. Some people want the most based, simplistic stuff, and that works also. Like I had mentioned Deicide before. Like, I love Benton. I just grew out of those kind of lyrics as I gotten older, but I still listen to Once Upon the Cross. I still listen to their first demo. I love Benton. I love Deicide. I just look for something more now, lyrically, but I still listen to some of the most barbaric stuff and simplistic things. And simplicity is needed I think Behemoth with the Satanists, I hate using Behemoth anymore because I don't like where they went, but the Satanists kind of brought music back to kind of like a baseline. I feel like everyone, like I said, over the last 15 years up to that point, we're just trying to play fast and trying to outdo each other. And I feel like that album kind of reintroduced some just simple riffs that make your head bob. It just felt like they pulled back and went back to basics. So basics are awesome. It's not always.
One thing I have always said about Glenn is I do feel like sometimes his talent as a lyricist, especially on the early albums, gets lost in the noise of all the controversy and all the drama that follows him. Like if you go back and listen and actually read the lyrics for Repent to Die, I'm not saying that it's particularly deep, but it's well written. I mean, I was mocking the Dave Mustaine lyrics because they genuinely are. I mean, it's awful. It's like something that a 10-year-old would write. But if you look at a lyric like delightful is the sight of repension, no destiny, just a certainty of death, in pain inducing lies of salvation. There's like a rhythm to it. There's like a flow to the way he's writing those lyrics, and they're really eloquently well written. And actually, I would also go as far as to say, as much as Legion was like presented as this really blasphemous thing, yes, it is, but at the same time, it's kind of like there's also something relatively thoughtful about it. It's certainly in comparison to some of the later stuff that he wrote. The first two albums, the lyrics are as much as they are Deicide lyrics, they're actually relatively thoughtful. Maybe not thought provoking. There's no question what they mean. But they're thoughtful lyrics,
and they were boundary pushing at the time, if I remember. Yeah, I mean, now it's a cliche, but there's always that moment where they were new, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, is this?" Like he really genuinely scared people.
Yeah, I mean, it was, if you had a copy of Legion on you at the school that I went to, you were facing expulsion, mate.
Wow.
It's just like people they were not going to tolerate that. I remember a teacher got hold of a copy of it once, and I mean, I don't think they even read the lyrics. I think they just read the song titles, and even then the kids were like, "This is the most horrible thing I've ever come across in my life."
Look, I went through a big Benton phase. He is the quintessential death metal vocalist. The highs, listening to all kinds of different music. He was the first one that I really heard those just crazy demonic highs in death metal, and I was like, "Holy hell, what is this?" I feel like George Fisher is like his syncopation and his cadences and the way he can. He is by far, I think, abilities there with being able to put it all together is phenomenal. But Benton, man, like until Fisher came along in the Cannibal Corpse and was doing the screams and stuff, also Benton just coming out of one person, that was a huge inspiration. I mean, I was when I met Dave, I was Benton Jr. and my lyrics also followed very Benton sweet, and I think that was another part of like. The guitarist didn't want to exactly go with Bible Basher, and I was definitely Bible Basher at that point of my life.
I just wish with Benton that someone had somehow found a way to heal up his tonsils, because after that tonsillitis surgery, his vocals were never the same. Like, he's still a very good vocalist, he's still a very capable vocalist, but the performance on Deicide and Legion, to me, are the two greatest things that, in terms of death metal, that set the benchmark, and it has never been equaled. It is so aggressive and so fucking hateful, and just every single thing that a death metal band should and could be is captured in those two records.
Yeah. It's lightning. They're lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. And I mean, again, the deep vocals, they sound cool. Like, I think his performance on Dechristianize, as an example, is excellent, but it just lacks that extra gear that he had on the first two albums.
Yeah, I think ultimately even why I like what we're doing so much is I don't have to go back to that low. Like, I can do lows all day. I feel like when you do them sparingly, it has more impact on the music than someone just barking the whole time. I feel like that gets kind of lost. But Benton, man, on, like you say, Dechristianize, I'm a fanboy on that. That is my that's my Slayer, Rain and Blood. I was too young to witness Rain and Blood when it came out. Dechristianize, I remember where I was, that opening track, that bark, I'm like, that is hell. That literally is hell. That is what I want to be able to sound like if I'm doing lows, and I don't think anyone compares to them when it comes to that.
On Dechristianize, the last song, Entwined by Vengeance, like, firstly, what a fucking song to end off an album with. But the part of that song that always sticks in my mind is the chorus part, the "Listen to Our Legion chanting Thy name," because he does the listen to Our Legion, he does it really low, and he like screams the chanting Thy name. That was like, I think that was. I remember speaking to Steve for Chronicles of Chaos at the time, and even he was saying, like, that's when everybody like woke up and went, holy shit, like Glenn is very, very far from being past it, because they wrote him off a little bit after In Torment in Hell. I mean, everyone wrote Deicide off after In Torment in Hell, and when he did the work he did on Dechristianize, I think people were like, no, dude, this guy's got a lot of fucking gas left in the tank.
I remember specifically the press around those last two Deicide albums for the ones for Roadrunner. The In Torment in Hell was the last one, and then the one before that was Incinerate Him. I remember that, like, the press, like the interviews, they the band was saying at that point they were already so pissed off at Roadrunner. And if somebody in the comments correct me if I'm remembering this wrong, but this is just my recollection, is they were saying they just basically they knew that their records were not going to be promoted, and Roadrunner was going to put absolutely no money behind them. So if those two albums sound like they were phoned in, it's because the band basically did their best to phone them in, and just wait till they were off the label, and then whatever label they landed on next, that's when they would, put forth their best effort. But intentionally, I think, if I remember correctly, they were saying they were trying to stick it to Roadrunner because they knew that they were pretty much done. That label had moved on to new metal by that point. And so they were just saying, they're not going to make any effort, we're not going to make any effort. And they even encouraged people, don't buy these albums because you're probably not going to like them.
New metal and Nickelback, the fucking cornerstones of Roadrunner Records.
Yeah.
The story does change a little bit depending on the mood that Glenn is in, though, because he'll often blame the Hoffman brothers for those two albums. Like he said once in an interview that it was Steve that wrote the first 4 records, and then whenever the Hoffmans took over the writing, that's when you got Incinerate Him and In Torment in Hell. Again, don't know what went on backstage, but I know that the Hoffmans, it's very, very publicized. The Hoffmans and Glenn absolutely hated each other and still do. And I think that it's one thing to have friction in the band room. It's another thing to where you can't even be in the same room with each other, which is kind of where they were at as a band, I think. But anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It is great talking to you again. I'm assuming, given that you're almost done with album 10, we'll probably be doing... This is going to become an annual tradition where we'll do the director's commentary for Veilburner number 9 sometime in 2026.
I hope so, because this is such a good time. You have such a great podcast. I love the the format, the long conversation format. Structure of it. I love the guests, the other guests that you get on your other shows. It's like we're growing as a band, and you're really growing as a podcast person, and Transcending Obscurity is really growing as a label. So I like being involved with people that are all kind of growing together.
I very much appreciate that, brother.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate you too.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Take care.
Take it easy, man.
Bye.
That was Matter O' the Most Awful Martyrs, taken from the album Longing for Triumph, Reeking of Tragedy, the band unmistakably Veilburner. My guests this week, and I want to say a massive thank you to Chrisom and Mephisto for their time. It is always so much fun talking to those dudes, and just the sheer amount of attention to detail that is paid to every release that this band puts out. Of course, we spoke a bit about the vinyls. I definitely say if you do own the facilities, if you've got the equipment to play vinyl, this is a band you definitely have to get their vinyls, or whose vinyls you definitely have to buy. It is well worth it. It is available, of course, on Transcending Obscurity, and it's also available for sale on their Bandcamp. So I'll post the Veilburner Bandcamp in the description to the podcast. Make sure you avail yourself of it if you like what you heard, and I'll have these guys back on the show again without a shadow of a doubt when album number 9 gets released. Now, I've had a couple of completely idiotic comments on YouTube over the course of the last couple of months where people have been complaining about the length of the intro to the show. One dork said, took too long for the show to get up and running. Now, here's a little nugget that I'd like to share with you. If you don't want to watch the intro, if you're on YouTube, or if you don't want to listen to it if you're on Spotify, for YouTube, take your little mouse, go click about 10 minutes after the show starts. If you're on Spotify, very easy. Pull your finger out of your nostril and then slide it 10 minutes across the time bar or the timeline on Spotify or Apple or wherever you're listening to it on. Of course, you also should immediately hit the fucking bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
Welcome back to the show, Reverend Karl Hikara. How's everything going, brother?
All right, I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we try to get one of these done before I wrap up for the year. And I just to confirm at the top of the news rant, you're up for our traditional. We always kind of grab the middle bit of the 3-part top 30 of 2025 extravaganza.
Yep, that's the plan. To do it again. I'm starting to get my list together.
I was just going to say, how are you getting on with your list?
I literally the other day just put together a kind of draft list. Like my top 10 is probably pretty set. And the funny part is I've penciled in things like the Darvaza album because I'm pretty sure they're not gonna disappoint.
I'm about to say, as soon as that got announced, I cleared a space on the spreadsheet. There's just no way that's not in the top 10.
I put that's penciled in, and so is the New Enthroned, because I mean I pretty much know it's gonna be in that running. So, but so I've kind of done a list, and now I'm kind of have to start. I have like the third my usual amount plus a handful, and make the decision of what goes and stays. Now, it became harder than I thought it was going to be, because there's just been like a constant fucking stream of albums the last like couple months of, you know what I mean? Like the first half of the year, I was like, oh, this will be easy. And then now the second half is like kind of tons of stuff getting announced and everything,
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think we might even have spoken about it on the news rant. I said, it felt at certainly the beginning of the year, it felt like it was slower than 2025. 2024. I thought maybe this year is going to be a little more straightforward, but it has not been. I keep a list, and I routinely will go through the list and just sort of clear out anything that I think isn't quite, doesn't have a look in, because what I try and do when I go on holiday is I try and only listen to the albums that are going to be either on the outskirts or in the top 30, and then that way I can kind of decide where everything sits. So I've got 52 albums on my list right now, and
I have about 55. So
yeah. So I've got a bit of cleaning up to do, and there's a couple of obvious ones that'll go out. But yeah, there's going to be it. I find it's always easier to do the top 10 than it is to do the number 21 to 30, because there's always the question there of what stays and what drops out.
Yeah, the the top 10 is easy. Like I have my top 10 pretty much set like for right now. I mean, the stuff that's in it, it's gonna be really hard for anything to really bump it out.
Yeah.
But and I forgot new Budos Nord's coming out too, so that's probably gonna be a contender. But maybe not for top 10, but for the whole, we'll see what it's like. But
it would be giving away too much if I said where it sits, where Blue House North sits for me, but I suspect most people are going to be able to guess.
Yeah,
I've heard the whole thing. I mean, if you like the records that it most sounds like, like Cosmosophy, then it is you're going to be in fucking seventh heaven.
Yeah, I'm for me, like I like most of the Budos Nord except for I didn't like Hypnagogic. I didn't really think that's like the one Budos Nord album I just don't like. But I like pretty much all of their stuff, but my favorite for me personally is the stuff that's like work with Transform Scott, Mort, that their last album, I'm forgetting the one from like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Just call them Disharmonium. I think the one from 2 years ago was Disharmonium Nahab.
Yeah, Nahab.
I think about that off the top of my head.
Yeah, like that one, Disharmonium 2, Nahab, stuff like that is kind of like my favorite. But I also like the Cosmophony and Mephisto stuff as well. So I'll probably like this one because it seems like it's kind of be more in that vein. So,
well, I think I said this when I listened to the second single. It is a very much a partner record to Memoria Vetusta 2, 777 Cosmosophy, and Hallucinogen. There's stuff about it that's different. I know that it's supposed to. I mean, at least what I've read, I could be completely wrong about this. It's supposed to be the closer to the Disharmonium trilogy, which seems weird to me because musically it doesn't have a lot in common with those albums.
Yeah, that's weird.
But it's supposed to sort of be the tail end of those two records. But the ones I just referenced now, if you like those, you're gonna think Ethereal Horizons is the fucking bee's knees sucking on a dog's bollocks.
Yeah, it'll probably be one that I like less than the last one, but I'll probably still like it,
Yeah.
But it was definitely going to be in the list, I'm sure. But yeah, it's definitely what's hard about trying. The one thing though that sometimes I kind of just have to end up coming to decision of at a certain point is that because I do more than you do. I have a top 50 instead of top 30, and even then it can be hard to narrow it down. I kind of think that past the top 20, so like it's all kind of relative. You know what I mean? Like an album being in one position or another is kind of like meaningless in a way because I just kind of start listing the albums that I liked basically of the year. You can almost think of the top 20 as like the ones that are like the best of the best for me, and then the rest are kind of like really good albums that I think need to be mentioned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're interchangeable depending on the mood that you're in.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've had a lot of stuff. Like for example, the year that it came out, Melano wasn't my number one, but now it is. I mean, it's not just my number one; it's one of my favorite black metal albums of all time. So there are records as well that, given you might only have had a short period of time to let them sink in properly. There's various factors that are going to impact that.
But, yeah, definitely.
Definitely. I agree with you. Like, I'd say on mine, past the top 15, they start to become a bit interchangeable.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where, and there's some albums that maybe like 6 months from now, I would look back and go, man, that should, if I did the list right now, that would be in my top 10. That happens.
100%.
Like I definitely had albums that I put in like maybe like 30, and then you're like, listen to it a while later and you're like, if I redid the list, this would have been higher. But that's why I kind of just think like past the top 20, they're all kind of equal in a way,
Well, I'm going to take a stab at your numbers 1 and 2. You don't have to confirm that I'm right or wrong, but I'm just going to guess. I'm going to go number 2 is that new Death Heaven album. And then number one, unquestionably, that brand new agriculture masterpiece.
Oh, yeah, how did you know?
It's when you when you had the Che Guevara T-shirt on, but you zipped up just right before I hit record. I said, I know what he's down with.
Yeah.
All right.
Although you probably could guess my real number 1 and 2, but we won't give it away.
We'll talk afterwards. I'm about 99.9% confirmed on my number 1.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were talking about Bloedhuis Noord, and obviously they're a band that inspires a lot of passion, and clearly from my own personal experience, Forteresse inspires a lot of passion as well. So as anybody who's watching this on YouTube will see, I'm not on Metal Storm yet. I'm on YouTube because there is a new Forteresse demo that's been released. And I say demo because just looking at it on Metal Archives, that's how they've got it listed. Okay. So the song is called Akutu Tiri, which means at loggerheads. And yeah, as I said, first-hand experience, I got a bunch of people fucking complaining that I didn't review Forteresse when I did the Fortress Festival video this year. And you do kind of explain. I don't watch every single band that's there. I specifically said I'll tell you what I thought of the bands I watched. But anyway, clearly there's like I said, this band stirs a lot of emotion in the loins of the people that love it. So let's hear what Forteresse sounds like. Okay, that song got extended play on account of a overlong intro, and I wanted to make sure that I at least got to hear the vocals. Here's a thought for you. In that main riff, and we can repeat the song if needs be. If you can sing the first verse of "Mother" by Danzig, and note how well it fits over that melody.
Yeah.
Seems almost like if Mother had a black metal cover version, they would end up with that song.
That's funny. I didn't even realize that until you.
Do you like you want to hear it again? You'll see exactly what I mean. Yes, I'll give you like 10 seconds. Hold on, let's just pause this fucking.
You can probably turn the YouTube up there with you.
That literally is the Mother melody.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's weird. I have a feeling that's probably not on purpose, but it's just one of those things that happen.
Well, there's a lot of anguish in the song, and I suspect the anguish is at watching the Canadian economy continue to tank under Mark Carney. I mean, the song itself, it's decent, but I mean,
sounds like Forteresse.
Yeah,
like it's just I don't mind them, but I haven't listened to them probably 15 years probably is the last time I listened to them. They kind of get a little tiresome for me because every song sounds pretty much exactly the same from my experience. So I'm sorry for everybody who's like gigantic like Forteresse fans, but I'm just
loads of people just hit the thumbs down button.
I mean I don't hate them. I mean I think it's good, but it's they're one of the better Quebec ska bands, but I just feel like it's a little like the samey all the time. It's always the same type of riffs like constantly, which gets a little tiring to me.
It's the kind of black metal that I enjoy tends to just be a little bit more. What I gravitate towards tends to be a little bit more on the aggressive and the hateful side. I was bored the other day on a call, and I compiled. Just using the mantra of my top 20, of like what pops into my head first, I compiled my top 20 favorite black metal songs of all time. And I can tell you there's not a single song on that list that sounds like what we just heard. So it's...
Yeah, even when something has like kind of like, I don't know, mournful or something quality, I guess like I kind of want it to also have changes, like where... You can have a riff like that, and then maybe go into like an old school riff, and bring a little aggression to it here and there. That's part of what makes Shining so great. For example, is like even though their shit's really dark and depressive, they also know how to go into like a fuck yeah, black and roll type of riff. You know what I mean? That makes you like it's got some swagger to it. I just think that sometimes when black metal is just totally just these type of melodic riffs and that's all it is, I can be like, okay, that's cool for like a couple songs maybe, but if the whole album's like that, I start tuning out after a while.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I completely agree with you. And there's many such bands in the scene right now, and very often I listen to their music and it's like there's something missing here. Part of what's missing is fucking testosterone, balls, aggression and anger. Let me ask you this question. As I was talking about favorite black metal songs of all time, if you use that yardstick as what pops into my head first, what is the song that pops into your head first if somebody asks you that question?
Probably Democeras Dom Satanas from Mayhem, the song. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Maybe seconded by... that one's a little hard, but either probably my top ones would be like that. The Return of Darkness and Evil from Bathory, Crossing the Triangle of Flames from Dark Throne. Although that's kind of like right up there with like In the Shadow of the Horns, probably right next to it.
Oh, but, In the Shadow of the Horns is a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah. Those would be some of the top ones. I'm trying to think. Maybe yeah, I know it's like going off what comes to your mind first, but I'm just trying to think. course, when you ask that question, your mind goes a little blank.
Your mind goes blank. I know what you mean.
Yeah, those are some of the top ones. I would also say I'm trying to think. Probably Snoo Microcosms Tegan from Burzum, the final song in Dat Saman Lungvar. That's another one up there. A song that comes to mind, even though it's not my favorite era of Gorgoroth, but I really love the track Ritual from Gorgoroth off of Pentagram. I just think that song is really, I like the way the songwriting is on it. Although I would say that a song like off of what's the, it was Wound Upon Wound from Abin Jorm. That's like,
oh my god, what a fucking song! Yeah,
it's another one. But yeah, and then maybe like you have to have Samael. You have to have Worship Him. That track. Yep. I like this. Another one. Gates of Nana from Beherit. You know, it's, Goat and Moon from Archgoat. But anyways, those are some of my favorites.
I'll give you my top 20, and this is in alphabetical order. So this literally was like I literally wrote it down like what pops into my head first. So Ephialtes by Eccles, Raise the Dead by Bathory, Let the Horror and Chaos Come by Behexen. If somebody said, what's your favorite black metal song of all time, it's probably that song. Dunkelheit by Burzum, Rust by Dark Throne, This Hungry Triumphant Darkness by Darvasa. A song that captures everything that is brilliant about black metal is that song, as far as I'm concerned.
It's a great one. And that I would say that track from Behexen would be up there for me too, because that album is one of my favorites.
Dude, that song is the most unhinged, violent, aggressive. It's like Kyle was once talking about he loves mania in music. It really sounds manic. It's like the screams and the like just vocal noises that get added in just to add to the fucking insanity. I can't get enough of it. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I would also put Devil's Emissary from Funeral Mist. It's one of them.
Yeah, I'm going to get to Funeral Mist in a second. So I've got Inno Ars Satana by Emperor. Blessed Curse by Funeral Mist. Blessed Curse to me is such a fucking statement of intent. With the sampling of the Televangelist, it's fucking genius.
For me, Emperor Cosmic Keys to My Creation in Time. That was the song that got, like, really made me fall in love with that album.
Yeah.
That song.
Morning Star by Gehenna. Exit by Gorgoroth.
Oh yeah, that's one of the
ending
best.
Of
so
Exit
good.
Is one of the most incredible things I've ever heard.
I love those kind of moody mid-tempo songs on those later Gorgoroth albums.
Yeah. One that's going to be people will think is a little trite, but I absolutely love it. And when you see it live, you understand why it's such a special track. Blashuk, Mighty Raven's Dark by Immortal.
That's a good one.
Sadhu Satana by Impaled Nazarene. Again, a song that is just completely off the fucking rails from start to finish. The entire album, Ugra Karma, is off the rails, but that song in particular. A Black Eon Shall Cleanse by Inquisition. World of Blades by Marduk. Freezing Moon by Mayhem. Like when I think black metal, I immediately think of that song. Then a newer one, Engen Verkun by Mystyrming. Kind of has the same vibe to me as This Hungry Triumphant Darkness.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love that album.
One that might catch people by surprise, Quintessence by Rotting Christ. I think that Genesis is an underrated album. I've seen them do that song live, and it just blew me away. Another newer one, Black Royal Spiritism by Ruim. Also, again, saw it live, just mind blown. It's an incredible album. One that potentially people will disagree with, but I think is a masterpiece, To the Mountains by Satyricon. And then Mayer on a Stillbirth's Tomb by the Ruins of Everest. Those are based on the yardstick of this. These are the first songs that come to mind. That's my top 20.
Yeah, I'd have to actually write down a list, but yeah, some of the stuff I mentioned, like those would be the ones that kind of come to mind. Like I'd have to have like some Swedish as well. So yeah, Marduk is hard because I love both eras. But if I had to pick one, it would be Accuser Opposer with Alan Averill.
I actually had that one, and then I was like, but World of Blades is actually the song that, because it has that ending where Mortis is like saying, you know, in the light of the new dawn shall come with flames of destruction. It's just, to me, why they've never done that song live, I have no fucking idea, because it's a perfect live song.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's like a lot of layers to the vocals and shit that's like hard to replicate live.
Yeah, but I mean, all he needs to do is like shout over those, those opening bits, or not the opening bits, the parts where he's talking. But imagine, like, they've got that part where the talking sequences, and he's standing in front of the audience yelling all those lines at them. I mean, that'd be fucking brilliant.
Yeah, it'd be cool. That's a really good album.
Yeah, no, it's superb. It's I'd say that and Wormwood is probably my favorites from the Mortis era.
I'd say
Romans 5:12 is what I would actually that sequence, that 3-album sequence, Romans 5:12, Wormwood, Serpent Sermon, fucking just brilliant.
Oh yeah, those are the ones. For me, I say Rome 5:12. That's the one that I put on my top. I put in my top 10. So
All right, let's head over to metalstorm.net, the finest metal news website in all the land, and we're going to check out a song by Funeral Vomit. They've got a brand new track called Cryptic Miasma Stench.
What do you think Funeral Vomit is? So you're at the funeral and somebody's vomiting on the corpse or something? I mean, what does that mean?
I think it's somebody who's so stressed at the funeral that they can't help but puke. But I said this before, I'm reasonably sick of bands calling themselves Funeral Blank. We got Funeral Mist. I can tolerate maybe Funeral Throne because I quite like their album, and Funeral Winds is all right, but Jesus Christ, I mean, stop with the fucking funeral shit now.
There's Funeral, the classic Funeral Doom band, which I love from Norway, but I mean, I just think at this point, there's no point. Do not name your band Funeral something. There's too many bands with Funeral.
Agree.
Yeah.
Well, I would also say that the title of the track, Cryptic Miasma Stench, it sounds like somebody lined up all their Cannibal Corpse, vinyls, and they said we need a 3-word song name. So I'm going to take these darts, I'm going to throw them at the wall, and whatever ones they land in, there we go. We got a song.
There we go. We're already roasting it for listening to it. I guess we should reaction.
Yeah, about to say we'll listen to it in a second. It says here, death metal purveyors Funeral Vomit have released Cryptic Miasma Stench, the third and last single of their upcoming sophomore full-length Upheaval of Necromancy. As you say, let's give this one a spin.
I had to kill him! What? He's dead? Not anymore.
longer. You know that scene on True Romance where Lee Donowitz says, "I've got more taste in my penis." That immediately came to mind when we were about a minute into that song. I was like, "Fuck it, this sucks."
Yeah, it's not good.
No,
It's it just doesn't. It doesn't sound good at all.
it sounds like a riff that you would write when you get your first guitar at like the age of 14 and you've just gotten into death metal. It's the kind of music, like I knew a lot of people that were in second-rate, not even second-rate, frankly, third-rate bands in South Africa, and this is the kind of thing that they would noodle around with in the band room.
Yeah, I just feel like obviously they're trying to go for like some kind of old school thing, but I think even a lot of stuff from the old school B-rate kind of death metal demos sounded better than that. I know, like when they went into like the fast part, that was awful. Like it was like,
I was about to say that that's when it really all fell apart. You know, it was sort of, it was. I mean, it wasn't good up to that point, but when the fast part came in, it was like, holy God, this is fucking atrocious.
I think they have a kernel of an idea that's not the worst. I mean, I like kind of the death doomy stuff, but it's just the execution is not there at all. Like,
no.
You guys should probably make some demos and work out your arrangements a little bit before you put out albums. You know what I mean?
If I had to give them, any kind of flowers, I would say that Vomit, their vocalist, he's pretty decent. Not brilliant, but he doesn't sound bad. Like in the right setting, right environment, right song, he might actually sound okay. But I don't know how that got signed to Extreme Music, because I mean, not that they have a penchant for or a reputation for quality, but Jesus, I'm always amazed when I hear something like that's been picked up by a label, and then I think of all the bands that I have on the Unsanctioned Filth segment of the podcast, and I'm like, how are those bands unsigned? But somebody listened to this nonsense and said, "Yeah, let's get a contract out to these dudes."
I don't know. It's something that Jerry always talks about. I totally agree with. Is like, unless you're like, if you're like really like experienced guys and like take your time to write good songs, and that's fine to put out an album. But I think a lot of bands kind of nowadays, because of how easy it is to record themselves, they kind of skip over the demo/EP stage, where you're kind of airing out the kinks and figuring stuff out. And it just seems like sometimes some bands need to maybe take a little bit more time to figure this shit out before they start putting out albums,
That is an excellent point, because in the late 80s and the early 90s, you would have to be you would have to play live and have your music road tested and audience tested an awful lot before you got anywhere near being able to go and record a demo. And usually by the time that you got to your first album, you had done 2 to 3 demos. You'd probably been playing live for at least 3-4 years. You would have had people give you an idea of whether the songs are good or not. There would have been a period of refinement, and I'm not necessarily sure that a band like Funeral Vomit would have been. They would still be stuck in that era. Let's just put it that way. If this were the early 90s and recording equipment wasn't as easily accessible as it is today, or recording facilities, they're not a band that is ready for they're not ready for the big time.
No, and even a band like Burzum, for example, who's one man who never played live, he had written all those songs like 2 years before he finally recorded them, and had released a couple demos to the underground,
Well, he had another control group giving him feedback, because he was taking it to Helvete all the time, and obviously playing it to those dudes, and they told him it's great music. But I mean, I can assure you, there was, from everything I understand, there was so much competition and so much fucking, so many egos that were involved in that time period, not least of all coming from Euronymous, that I think you kind of knew, if I don't bring my A game, people are just going to tell me it sucks. I'm going to be ridiculed. Yeah. So it was that feedback loop that you would typically have as a band playing live shows. Even if you didn't play live shows during the golden age of Norwegian black metal, you still had the feedback loop from your peers, which I would argue was probably slightly harsher than the feedback loop you would have from the average drunken buffoon going to watch a black metal show.
Yeah, and then I think that's important. I think that you should iron out your kinks. Make sure your songs are good. Stuff like that. It's a little different if you're like if you're more experienced, I guess. Like if you're already like been doing stuff, but still, even so, like I think that that's why Drew Goth and I did EPs for our first releases, or even just like a 2-song demo. It's like we needed to kind of iron out the kinks a little bit and figure out how things work.
And you get you have a feedback loop among your peers as well. Obviously, like when you sent it to me, I sent you guys all sorts of insulting stuff back, like memes, pictures of me puking.
Yeah,
I'm only teasing, of course. And what you guys have eventually come up with on your latest EP is very, very good. And I mean, considering how raw it is, I was really surprised by the positive response to it when I played it on the podcast. You can always sort of get a gauge on how much people have liked it if you get like 5, 6, 7 people mentioning it in either posts or just messages back to you like, fuck, that was really, really good. That was probably one of the best received like unsigned bands that I featured on the podcast all year.
That's good. Yeah, and I know that the Black Flame Ultra one got a lot of good feedback as well. Probably even more good feedback, which makes sense because I do think the Black Flame Ultra is probably going to be to more people's tastes. You know what I mean? Than Blood Scourge, but that's just part of the point of the Blood Scourges. It's not really for everybody.
All right, let us move on to a band that is immensely popular, but who I quite like. And even though they don't necessarily fit in the black and death metal mold, I do want to hear what this sounds like. Converge are set to return with their 11th long player, Love Is Not Enough, on February the 13th, 2026. The 10-piece offering was produced, recorded, and mixed by the band's guitarist, Kurt Ballou, at his God City studio in Salem, Massachusetts. Are you a fan of Converge?
Yeah, I like Converge, and I am a big fan of Kurt Ballou's productions.
Yes,
what he's done for Strigoi and Valenfire and everything.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think Converge are pretty good, and that album they did with Chelsea Wolfe was quite good as well.
The one that I enjoy the most by Converge, or at least the one that as lame as this is going to sound, the one that meant the most to me was the one that had Sadness Always Comes Home, All We Love We Leave Behind. That came out in 2012. That's probably my favorite Converge album, and that's the last one that I was like properly into. I enjoyed the Chelsea Wolfe one, but there was so much else coming out at that time. It was, I just didn't spend as much time probably with it as I otherwise would have. But anytime they're about to release something, I'm interested. And as you say, Kurt is, as far as tier 1 producers and guys that'll get a sound out of a band that nobody else can, I think he's the gold standard in this day and age.
Yeah, he's one of the best, particularly for if you're doing kind of sludgy, doom or whatever kind of music, like if you want that kind of thick edge to it, yeah, he's like the best.
All right, well, let's hear the first song. So this is the first song and the title track, Love Is Not Enough by Converge.
Don't
there because the song is only 2 minutes 22 seconds, so we're not going to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of real highlights for me in that opening 1 minute 23 that we just heard now. One of them being that Love Is Not Enough. I don't know whether you want to call it a bridge or a chorus, but gang vocals, very catchy riff, like seriously fucking nasty hook. The song itself, really, really aggressive. Kurt's production, of course, grade A. I think this, to me, earns certainly a thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely a thumbs up. I think it's pretty good, and definitely makes me want to hear the rest of the album.
Yeah, 100%. Love Is Not Enough, by the way, the title of a Nine Inch Nails song off a very unloved Nine Inch Nails record, in my opinion, With Teeth. I don't know why that record doesn't get the sort of kudos that... I mean, I personally think it's better than Year Zero. I frankly think it's better than almost anything that Trent ever put out, and I'm a massive Nine Inch Nails fan. I think Trent Reznor is, one of the true musical geniuses of our generation. But With Teeth, to me, and that particularly the song Love Is Not Enough by Nine Inch Nails, fucking masterpiece.
I would say With Teeth is the last real good Nine Inch Nails album. You know what I mean? Not to crap on the stuff after it. He's done some good stuff since then, but I don't think that he's done anything since then that's quite as good as it. You know what I mean? So, in my opinion.
Well, I don't want to sound like a wimp, but I would say With Teeth is the kind of record that if you have gone as a man through a very, very difficult breakup, it is you will relate to that record.
Yeah.
In probably ways you would otherwise not be able to.
I would say that as far as his later albums go, I'm not really a fan of what was the one you just mentioned.
Year Zero.
Year Zero. I don't really like that album. I would say. Let me pull up the discography because I sometimes don't remember the names of the later albums. Come on. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'd say,
my friend. Thank God for wide split screen is all I'm going to say, because I often find myself in that boat.
Yeah, I'd say I like Hesitation Marks. That's a good album, and then I liked the Add Violence and Bad Witch EPs or album. That whole thing. When he or not the actual Vance, Add Violence, Bad Witch, that kind of whole thing was good. Which was actually the last actual music he did. Because I had the song that he did for Twin Peaks: To Return, which I really like that song. So
and they've had these songs they've done for Tron.
Yeah, which I didn't listen to because I don't give a fuck. But
you weren't queuing at the front of the line to get your tickets for that new movie?
I don't like Tron. Period. I don't get it. So
I agree with you on that. I would say just on Hesitation Marks. Find My Way. I've seen them do that live. It is one of the great goosebumps moments of live performance that I've ever seen. It is fucking incredible.
That's a good song. Yeah, I would say that Year Zero and The Slip are two albums that I kind of just feel kind of middling on. I don't think they're bad, but I kind of preferred that Ghost 1 to 4 album. That was totally ambient more than those. Yeah, I get that's just me though, but I think the With Teeth is better than those ones, and
yeah,
he kind of made a comeback with Hesitation Marks for me personally.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. We're going to get to something ambient in a second because Ulver have put out a new single, and curiosity was always going to get the better of me. I have already listened to it, but I feel like we absolutely need to give it an airing on this week's News Rant. As I Lay Crying have got a new single out, but we'll give that one a skip.
Yeah, let's not torture people.
I kind of feel like everything has been said about Tim Lambesis that could possibly be said. I mean, the guy's a fucking complete and utter bell end as far as I'm concerned. And I don't understand why he's not in prison. He should go back to jail for what he did to that dog. Certainly, if he lived in the neighborhood I grew up in, he wouldn't need to worry about jail. So let's just put it that way. Back in the 90s in South Africa, we took care of our own justice.
Yeah.
All right. Lychgate have put out a new single called Renunciation. I feel like Deborah Morty are going out of their way to make sure they finish up this year on a really high note. And also they put out a bunch of their good stuff outside of the traditional Decibel best-of window. But it says here, Renunciation, the second single from Lychgate's upcoming fourth long player, Precipice, is out now and available for streaming via YouTube below. Sorry, I interrupted you when you were about to say something.
I'm really excited for the Martyr Dode album. Like,
holy shit, that's cool.
Those songs he did, the singles are so good. I can't wait. And that their EP was like amazing. So that's like up there with like Darvaz is one of my kind of anticipate albums for this year.
Yeah, that's 100%. You immediately had to make that. You needed to insert that row in the on the old best of ledger as soon as you heard that single.
Yeah,
all right,
that I did.
Let's hear what Lychgate sounds like. All right, I'll stop there. This song to me is proof that you can never judge especially in the format that we're listening to it on the news rant, you can never judge a record or an entire record by 2 minutes of one single, because the previous single that they put out, I know I didn't enjoy very much. This one, on the other hand, I think is great. It's got a real swagger to it, and I have to give a shout out here to Tom Vallely, their drummer. He's based in the UK. He also plays with a couple of other bands, Omega Centauri, Macabre Omen, Sanctus Next, Tome of the Unreplenished. Not big bands. Frankly, this dude's services should be in very, very high demand. He is fucking superb.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I really like this music very much, but for me personally, like I wouldn't listen to the album from that single, but he has a great drummer though. I'll give him that. You know, his drumming is great, but the music itself is not for me personally. So,
well, I normally don't really like avant-garde black metal at all. I mean, you know my thoughts on most of the bigger names in the avant-garde black metal scene, and all of my thoughts are negative. But with this, I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a good mood this morning. But it hit me right. It scratched me right where I itch.
Yeah, I mean it's not the worst thing in the world. it's just not. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Karl is a hater, so that's just one of those things.
I am a hater. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's before we listen to Ecto Void, because I can see they've not got Ulver here. Let me dig up that new Ulver single. I'm going to suggest you've probably already listened to it.
I listened to part of it, but I haven't listened to the whole song yet. I just kind of checked out a section just to see what it sounded like. Sounds promising. A really big fan of their their last few albums, like a lot. Like the one they released relatively recently. Had the what's his name? The cover from
Lord Belial. Impaled Nazarene.
what is the last? The Liminal Animals album from last year. I really like that.
Yeah.
As far as Visual Assassinates Julius Caesar. I think they've been on a pretty good run here for a little bit now. So after some not too good albums like Wars of the Roses, which I didn't really like that much.
I must confess, I'm not really a big fan of ambient music in any way, shape, or form. And I also, much as I'm not a fan of dungeon synth, I feel like anybody that is hugely into dungeon synth, because people I know that like it are very, very passionate about it, and I don't get it. I don't understand what the attraction is. If I wanted to listen to video game music, I'd put on the score to Elden Ring or something like that. But even then, I love Elden Ring, but I can hear it while I play the game. I don't need it on in the background.
I don't know. I do listen to some video game music sometimes, but I like Mortis, and I like some of that stuff. What I don't really like is when it gets too try hard. You know what I mean? There's a lot of dungeon stuff where it just gets too much. It can get too much for me. Where it's I like some. There's some of it's okay. But it's got to have some of that darkness. Kind of magical quality of early 90s black metal, that you got with Mortis and the Burzum ambient stuff. But there's some of that Dungeon 7 stuff that just sounds it sounds like the kind of music of some dude who still lives in his mother's basement. You know what I mean? I know that there is a big part of the fan base of that's kind of similar to that. Because my friend went to Dungeon Synth night out in Seattle, and he said that they were not his people there. You know what I mean? They're not because he likes some of that stuff. Some of the Dungeon Synth and black. Because he's a black metal dude. But yeah, there is a kind of annoying Gen Z hipstery quality to some of that Dungeon Synth stuff, which can be annoying. But I do like it, and at its best, stuff like Mortis or whatever is awesome.
Well, Mortis is going to be at Forteresse Festival next year as well, along with a couple of other dungeon synth folk. Much like you, I can't see the appeal to it live, but I'm going to go and check it out just to see if there's anything that I've been missing. I doubt it, but anyway, we'll see.
I think the thing with Mortis, I will put on Fat Herske, and read a fantasy book or go to sleep. Put on. I don't put it on. I just can't imagine that it's the most exciting thing to see live, And
no.
And that's the thing with ambient music. I like ambient music. I love Brian Eno. I love a lot of stuff. I love dark ambient, ritual ambient. I'm into a lot of stuff. But a lot of it I can't imagine being too exciting live unless the band does something. Some bands will do really cool visual presentations or performance art pieces and stuff like that to the music or with them. That's cool. That's how you have to do something like that to make it, because the music by itself, it can
be tedious.
Tedious to sit there and actually just watch somebody play it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a person who has limited patience for live shows in general. Personally, I'm not really a big live show person, so like like I'm the type of person that like a band doesn't win me over or make me feel like excited about them, like I'm probably gonna like get bored. That's just how I'm.
Do you find that's because of how many live shows you've seen in your life? Because the way I am, I there are a lot of bands where I'll be like 3 songs into the show and I'm like, okay, I'm good. I liked it, but I'm kind of good. I don't have to see any more of the show.
It's not. I kind of always been like this. Like live shows, and I like live shows can be fun, but here's the thing. Like there's some bands that are so good live, like it's like a transcendent experience to see. Like I don't know, a band like Watain or something like this. And that's what I guess. Like I have a high standard where that's kind of what I look for. I want to go and have an experience live. But in my experience, most bands do not give you that feeling. A lot of bands just stand on stage and play their songs, and it's like I could just listen to your CD at home, like, and probably have a better time than standing here surrounded by annoying people. I could just be at home rather than having made the effort to come out and watch you all, like, just piss around on stage. You know what I mean? Like, so I definitely have a high standard. Like for example, when I saw Cloak with open for Dissect and what's the Brazilian band, Christian. Personally, Cloak was more my taste live than either one of those bands, because Cloak actually, they have like a sense of drama to the way they perform and intensity, where Christian was really good, but DSI just felt like they were doing a rehearsal,
Well, DSI blow hot and cold when it comes to live shows. I've seen them multiple times. I've seen some shows where I've been bored out of my skull. And then I've also seen them deliver some of the very best death metal shows I've ever seen. So it largely depends on the mood that Glenn is in. But just a shout out to Scott Taysom, because, there's guys that have an X factor to them. And this is why I've always thought that band was going to be big, and why I personally think they frankly should be bigger by now than they are. But when you see, I've never seen them face to face, but just the videos that I've seen, you can just tell the guy's he's just got something. There's that it factor to him that he has when he's on stage. Charisma, presence. He just has it, and the reason why I kind of wanted to shout it out as well is because it comes effortlessly to him. Like, he's not somebody where it looks like on stage he's having to try to project this kind of an energy or this vibe. It is just completely natural to him. He is a natural frontman, and I love seeing that sort of thing.
Yeah, for me, like Cloak, all of them have a lot are actually really good presence on stage, and then they have a kind of swagger to them live. That I don't know, it's kind of like an exciting band to see, and I just think that another band like that we know is Christian from Necrosphere. Necrosphere's, I had the same feeling when I saw them, where I felt that they were better than the bands that they were opening for, and that includes Holder. I just think that I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little. I'm just kind of, I don't know, picky or something. But the other problem is that, say in black metal, black metal is a hard thing to translate live. It can either be like the most amazing thing you've ever seen, or it can be the most boring fucking thing where you just want to, you know what I mean? Like, because there's something about the live experience. Like, if you had a bad sound, you can't even tell what people are playing. It just sounds like a bunch of noise. So that's why it's important to have those kind of catchy, ballsy riffs, thrown in there, because that's when people can finally figure out what you're playing. But I don't know, it's just one of those things. I think that I want to have, to me, black metal is something important. So I like to see a band who puts a lot of effort into what it should be, because, it should be something with a little bit of drama to it. I mean, that was the whole point of it, like, it shouldn't just be 4 dudes in there, just, doing nothing on stage. You know what I mean?
Well, you know my thoughts on the greatest of all on stage sins, and that is turning around and talking to your drummer in between songs. And when bands do that almost as a kind of, in live performance or even live speaking, people have these, it's like these comfort blankets that they have. Some people can't speak on stage unless they're standing behind a podium. It's almost like this layer of protection between them and the audience. And I honestly think that people do the turning around and talking to the drummer as a layer of protection. They're not comfortable with facing the crowd and saying something to them. But it just doesn't make for a very exciting live show. If I wanted to go and watch a rehearsal, I can, there's plenty of bands I know that I could go and sit in on one of their rehearsals. And frankly, some of those bands would be more exciting in the rehearsal space than some of the bands that you see on stage. But a great example of a fantastic live show in black metal, Ruim. When I saw them at Forteresse, in my Forteresse review video, I raved about it too. That was absolutely exceptional. Had the drama, had the pageantry, but sounded fucking amazing. And then to your point, every single Ruim song has that moment that your brain can kind of latch onto, no matter what no matter what the quality of the house sound. But if you know the music, if you're familiar with it, you can latch onto it. But even if you're not, there's enough for you to get into.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I mean, one thing I will point out though is there are some bands that can pull off kind of like just being on stage and playing, like if you watch those videos, like say Fugazi live, for example, like they look like an amazing experience, but that's because they were like literally going off the cuff. You're watching like one of a kind performance where they not even know their set when they would go on stage. They would like decide the songs based off just in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's just part of the thing of a live performance. It either needs to be something that's a one of a experience that you're never going to experience again, like a performance of some great musicians who are really able to, have that kind of it factor about them, or it definitely has to have like that kind of drama and intensity to it. It has to, but either way, it has to be kind of an experience that you cannot replicate by just sitting at home listening to the CD. And that's, some bands don't get that,
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, well, let's move on to Ulver. So, new Ulver single is out. It's entitled Weeping Stone. It is taken from their forthcoming album Neverland, and I don't know whether the release date has been announced yet, but I'll look that up as we listen to this. Let's give people 2 minutes, and then we'll share our verdict on it after. right, for those that just heard that, are blown away and can't wait to put in their pre-order on Bandcamp, head over to, well, the Ulver Bandcamp, or I'm sure if you go to the House of Mythology label website, you can get it there. It's coming out on February the 27th, 2026. It's pleasant enough as far as I'm concerned, but I kind of come back to the point that I made before. This is not something I would ever turn on and listen to myself.
I like it. I think it's pretty good for ambient stuff. I don't like as much as I prefer what they've been doing on the last few albums that had a bit darker feeling and their actual songs. They're not just ambient, but it seems like this is going to be a who knows? Who knows what the album might not be all ambient, but if they're putting out an ambient single, then it might be a return to over ambient, which is not my favorite. I definitely prefer like their actual song stuff. That like if you haven't listened to Flowers of Evil and stuff, it's really good. I like those albums quite a bit.
How crazy is it? Like whenever I listen to their later music, it always blows my mind thinking about how influential this band was in black metal and what they've morphed into. I mean, it's probably one of the wildest transformations that the scene has ever witnessed.
Yeah, well, if you think of Nathan's Madrigal, which is one of my favorite black metal albums, and think of this album. But Kveldsanger was acoustic and had a little bit of dark ambience, but so I guess that was kind of the seed. But it's definitely pretty wild to think about that they went like balls deep into kind of Quell like experimental music there for a while. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. There's a part of me that, yeah, you kind of gotta go. You got black metal over, and then you got the rest of over.
Yeah,
kind of like two different careers in a way.
Question: would they be a bigger band or a higher profile act if they had changed their name at the end of the black metal chapter? Like if they had done the black metal thing, kind of closed that chapter off, and they had gone on, called themselves something else, and then made the music that they've been making for plus minus the last 20 years.
I don't know if they'd be bigger, but I think it would be better just because of how drastic the difference is. Like it feels to me that Ulver, like the name to me is more fitting for what they started off doing, but that was, it was Garm, like Havard said that Ulver's, when Garm created it, he wanted every album to be a little bit different, or he wanted to kind of continuously change. That was what he started the band off to do. That's why the first three albums are pretty different from each other. But for me personally, I'd prefer it if it was different, just because I think that then you could kind of separate the two a bit better, But yeah. I just go, you just have to go old or new, and new over is not everything is great, but they have their moments here and there. The discography is definitely very hit or miss, but they have some really good stuff at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we got time for one more. I'm going to skip over Ecto Void or whatever the hell it was called. But I do want to listen to this. Ellende have put out a new single. Varate Tale 2, the second preview tune from Ellende's forthcoming long player Zerfall, has premiered online in the form of an official music video. They don't give the release date yet, but I think it's February of next year. Those releases already starting to stack up. We got Mayhem in February next year. Did you like that Mayhem single?
I love it. I think it's amazing.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I think I can basically tell you, Crystal Ball, Mayhem will be up in the top 10 next year. So.
without a doubt. Marco sent me a note and he's like, "Yes, it's great for an Dinger song." And I was like, "You're not insulting the track. I fucking love it, probably for that very reason."
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, the whole album probably isn't going to sound like Nadinger because you have multiple songwriters,
Yeah.
Like like even Damon had some Nidhogran type of sounding stuff. It's just the way Telog writes songs.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I don't know what the problem is.
No, I think I don't think he necessarily meant it as a problem. I think it was more a jab. But he has a point. But again, I don't care because we haven't had a Nidhogran album since the High Heat Licks Against Heaven.
Yeah,
and that to me is like post 2000. If you did like a top 50 favorite or top 40 favorite black metal albums of all time, it'll definitely make it in there.
Well,
I mean, all three of their albums would have a pretty good shot of making it onto any list of mine.
Oh yeah, and I think all of the Nidhogran stuff is great. That's why I was really happy when he joined Mayhem. And I think there's enough to me. I guess it does sound a little bit Nidhogran, but to me it sounded like Mayhem because you have Necrobutcher's bass and you have Hellhammer's drums and you have Attila's vocals. It's still Mayhem,
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Yeah, and the thing is, Hellhammer has that very specific way of playing where it kind of sounds like he's chasing the riff around, which I love. It's such a commanding style of play. He's phenomenal, and of course, Attila is Attila. So best of the best.
I feel like as a song, they picked a good single because you got every kind of Attila's vocals on it because he literally does every type of his style because he ends up the song with like the kind of weird chanting vocals and he does everything on it. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hear what Ellende's new one sounds like. Not going to be able to do 2 minutes of that. When the old guard complains that black metal sucks and it's not what it used to be anymore, that is exactly the kind of music that they're thinking about. That is garbage.
I like the production though. The bass and drum sound is really good on it.
Super clean. That sounds good. But the song itself, it's just a meandering load of shit.
The thing of Ellende is that I actually really liked some of their early stuff, like I don't know, 7 years ago, like when their first EP and first album came out. I really liked those a lot, but I kind of feel like I haven't liked a lot of it. I kind of fell off. I felt like a lot of their newer stuff hasn't been very good, and this is not very good.
No, that's truly terrible in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a far cry from like their earlier stuff is way better than that. So
I find bands that are, like we said earlier, those that over reliance on melody, it takes away from what should be at the core of the music, which is vehemence. Just fucking spite and anger and hate and violence. That's what black metal should be about. Case in point, just because I need this as a palate cleanser. This live clip of Dervasa at Kilkum Zebu. I can't remember. This was recorded in 2023. The middle bit of this Hungry Triumphant Darkness, every single thing that is brilliant, not just about black metal, but about metal in general, is captured for me in this song. fucking song. And also, I'll just shout out Wrath. He's one of the fucking best frontmen in black metal, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, when you mentioned this definitely would be in one of my top black metal songs as well. I love that the fact that it's basically got this super heavy metal type of songwriting to it. Like you got this part which is definitely very heavy metal kind of bridge section, and then the chorus itself is very metal. It's very memorable. You can sing along this hungry, because it's basically just the title, is the chorus, and it's just super catchy, sticks in your mind. It's just I don't know. For me, that's the thing. I think the black metal sometimes people lose sight of. It's something that Jerry and I talked about when I had him on the podcast. Is that I think that black metal should be catchy. You should have some catchy riffs. You should.
You can't not have hooks. If you don't have hooks, what's the point?
Yeah, you got to have hooks. You got to have that shit. If you think about In the Shadow of the Horns, you can hum that fucking riff. Yeah. You think about even let's say a mid tempo kind of song, think of En Ring til Hørske or something like that from Burzum. Key to the Gate.
Chainsaw Guts fuck.
Yeah, that's not just so many of those great songs we all think of you know those riffs, Freezing Moon,
yes, yeah.
So try to do that, and try to always, and that's something that Darvaza get, they or Behexen get, or the best of the best in this day and age get, is that you got to have parts that grab people's nut balls, so they have to pay attention,
And the thing is, they also know how to riff off simplicity, by which I mean, to that part that we just listened to now, it's basically two notes.
Yeah, it's just two notes.
It's basically, but it's so perfectly placed in that song, because obviously the song is a lot more complex elsewhere. You go from semi-complicated into something that's traditional heavy metal, very catchy, and then suddenly this really simple part, that Mysterium track, Engen Verkoon, it's the same thing. It starts with just one note that just rings, but just the way they do it is just brilliant. And I've always loved that. Going back to AC/DC, my favorite AC/DC songs, and I always thought that particularly the Bon Scott era of AC/DC was so great, because you had these moments where on the surface, the music sounds like it should be quite upbeat and happy, but there's this sinister undercurrent to it, just because of the way Angus will let a note ring out, or the way that he'll execute something that is very straightforward and easy if you were to tabulate it, but really there's a feeling that's being conveyed as he's doing that's where the magic is. It's true of Darvasa, Mysterium, all of those bands we just said now as well. Freezing Moon's one of the easiest riffs probably on the face of the earth.
Yeah,
but it's so fucking brilliant. And they play that live, and people lose their minds to this day.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't have to. Bands try to be do kind of weird shit to we got to be original, so we got to make weird music. But it's not really about making weird music or being too crazy. It's about having the authenticity and the balls to put behind what you're doing. None of the music that say Drugoth makes or I make, the stuff we do. None of it's hard. I could probably teach anybody to play what I write, because I'm not. But I think that at the same time, it doesn't sound like anybody else, and it has its own vibe. Because I push to. It's about just being yourself and making the best music you can, and also having a high standard. If you don't think if a riff isn't a riff that makes you want to nod your head, then don't include it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's easy as that. Just have the ability to self-censor, or have somebody else who can tell you when what you're writing isn't so good. You know what I mean?
100% agree. All right, my brother, we're going to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining me once again. Always a blast having you on, and obviously you've got an open invite anytime you want to be on the show. So next time I see you, it's going to be 2026, and we'll probably do that one in the third week of January.
Yeah,
So,
well,
folks, better brace themselves, because this isn't going to be a fucking wimpy ass list like something you're going to read in Metal Hammer or any of that other bullshit. This is going to be real deal music.
Yeah, and since it's the last time I'll be on for the year, I just wanted to thank you, Jackie, again for the support with premiering Black Flame Altar and Antichrist Blood Scourge, and it helps a lot. Like, I definitely think we had a lot of people they find out about us, I think, through that, and it's help. And of course, it's an honor to be on the podcast, and appreciate it, and being a friend. And it sounds like next year we'll actually be able to meet up finally.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, plan is to be in Denver, Colorado on September. So probably it'll be a couple of days either side, but yeah, certainly for about a week or so. September 1st to September 4th is Cedia, and I'll certainly be at that expo for like 2 days of the visit. But it'll be fucking great to meet you.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be sick. But yeah, definitely appreciate it, Jackie, and we'll get our list together there.
Fantastic. Well, Legion, we're going to wrap up with a song we've been talking about an awful lot. I feel like it would be inappropriate not to play this, so we're going to go with a classic, "Freezing Moon" by Mayhem, on my list of the greatest black metal songs of all time. I want to say to every single person who stuck around until the very end, thank you so much. Whatever it is that you are doing and wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next time.